Hey everybody, welcome to the Sunday Show. It is 2 p.m. Central on October 12th, 2025, unless you're watching this later, and then in that case, it's whatever time and date it is where and when you are right now. And you know, it's only still 2 p.m. Actually, it's 2:01 Central now, so I've already messed it. Gosh, you can't, everything moves so fast these days. Like a whole minute.
Can it all just slow down? It all just needs to slow down.
This is a live call-in show. And by the way, 720-619-2288 is the number to call into the show. Huge thank you to our call screener, our moderators that are out there right now. Lines are there. Well, there are calls coming in, but also there are lines open. We're only going to keep 2 lines set aside maybe for atheistic callers. I want theist callers of all stripes. The government of the United States is still shut down, and God is still missing and presumed non-existent. Austin Archer is here with me, and we're wanting you guys to tell us why we should believe in your God, believe in what you believe in. What have we missed? What piece of evidence? What line of reasoning? What incredibly significant discovery or interaction can we actually have? Because you know, you might think that God did something, an amazing work in your life, but I don't know how we can verify that. But if you have a way of verifying it was God, we'd love to hear that too.
There's a lot of people. I was just going to say, there's a lot of people out there who think that the country should be run by Christianity, and by that the governing book over the country should be the Bible. And we'd love to hear it. It's the Sabbath. Hit us with it. Hit us with your best argument.
I got an email from somebody. Yeah, I got an email from somebody basically saying exactly that. And also, by the way, for anybody who heard the call with Clyde recently, Clyde emailed me to acknowledge that he is in fact a liar, and he does not in fact have a 10-year-old daughter, but he's got 2 sons, and one of them's gay, and the gay one agrees with him about trans stuff, which just points out that Clyde is way too stupid to realize where the burden of proof rests, and that neither his opinion nor the opinion of his similarly ignorant and bigoted gay son are relevant to trans rights issues. But
I also like the idea that I like the idea that he acknowledged that he lied about one kid, and then he's like, "No, but I actually do have a gay son who agrees with me."
Yeah,
it's like, okay, cool. Who's the kid gonna be next week, Clyde?
I need to protect my non-existent daughter from the non-existent threat from somebody with a penis walking into their bathroom. That's Clyde in a nutshell. Except that I didn't make up rights, and I didn't make up words the way Clyde did. I got a couple announcements real quick. It's interesting that we talked about emails. I have dropped way back on social media. This is kind of an FYI announcement. On my I've been online this entire time under my actual name, or under like sans deity, and then my name's just there. I have one YouTube account. I have one Facebook account. I have one Twitter account, one Instagram account. I don't have any backup accounts. I don't have any alt accounts. I don't have any hidden accounts. I don't have any sock puppet accounts. And several times a month, somebody reaches out to say, hey, this other person who claims to be you reached out to me and said this. And I have to tell them, there's pretty much nothing I can do. You can report it, but there are so many fake accounts. And then a lot of people have left social media, and their dead accounts get hijacked and used for other things. I've done some experiments on my own, but I only post on Facebook in friends only mode, or to the public, but set the comments so that only friends could comment. If you're not on my friends list, I no longer care to interact with you in any useful way. It's become a complete waste of my time. And I get it. My experience is going to be different, perhaps, than most of you watching, because as you know, somebody with a spotlight on them and some measure of public notoriety, they they target me, they copy my name and likeness and reach out to people, and they've asked people for money on my behalf and all kinds of weird stuff. And so I cut back to those kind of posts on Facebook. I also virtually never post on Twitter. I only log into Twitter about once a month or so, and that's just to keep the account active and see if I've gotten any messages there. I have dramatically cut back on how much time I spend reading and responding to anything on Facebook, not just my posts. Like I'll scroll and doom scroll like anybody else, but I'm skipping past some things, and I am so tired of the stupid and the spam and the constant stream of misinformation and the incessant cluelessness, even from people who I like and get along with. I'm trying to not run around correcting every bit of misinformation that somebody posts. There's just too many people who show up on my feed sharing a bad meme or sharing a news story that's not real or sharing something that is real and saying, there's no way this is real. And a quick Google search could have told you that, yes, in fact, the person who did receive the Nobel Prize and partially accepted it in Trump's name and thanked him and praised him. Now, you can then follow that trail down to find out, okay, is this person deserving? Was this strategic? Was this diplomatic? Is this a good person to get the Nobel Peace Prize or whatever else? But when Trump says that this person called him to say, I accepted this in your honor and everything else, that seems to be completely true, which just makes me value the Nobel Peace Prize less. But I already valued it less right after they gave it to Obama for doing next to nothing, and then not being as peaceful as I would have perhaps enjoyed. So I've cut back on that because when people post stuff, I'd come in and I'd make a post and be like, that's not true. That is true. That's not true. That is true. And I post links and I'm like, why am I spending all this time interacting with people who did not bother to do a 5-second fucking Google search themselves? And it's because I care about the truth and I want there to be good information out there. But a lot of it has just become incredibly time wasting. I did a couple of experimental posts and found that formerly dead accounts, things that have no public posts for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, are replying, and they fall into a couple different categories. One group of them are scammers trying to sell or buy items on Facebook that Facebook knows I'm looking for. Things like snake supplies, magic stuff, things like that. I get that all the time. Then there are the ones who only reply to political posts that I make, and they reply just spewing MAGA misinformation. You add that to what we know about China and Russia and others, basically coming in just to stir shit of let's poke people on both sides so that they're fighting more. And now it's to the point where if I don't know you, my confidence that I'm interacting with a genuine individual, you're probably a person, but whether or not you are arguing in good faith or whether or not you're just prodding or trying to troll or waste time, that confidence has dropped off. I'm also not watching the show and not interacting in chat. Well, I'm not doing it today, and I'm not doing it most days, but I have jumped in a couple times. And the last thing is, I've been really accessible. Like, find other people who've done this as long with as much attention on them as I have. None of them are as accessible as I am, or virtually none of them. I respond to all my own emails. If you email sans.deity@gmail.com, you get a response from me or you don't get a response. And that's the change. Because I'm done wasting time replying to emails from people I don't know, whether they're tone policing, whether they're writing in to say, oh, you're just a coward. Literally, somebody suggested that we're the fascists because they got blocked from YouTube chat, and that's censorship, and that makes us fascists. And I was like, we're not a government, you dipshit. But so the nuts and bolts are that you may still be able to find your way on my friends list, and you may still get a response to email if you make it clear that you are someone who doesn't know me, but you're writing in to ask a sincere question. But generally speaking, if you don't know me by now, you will never get an email reply from me. Anyway, I did all that just to sing one little clip.
I have a question. That was beautiful, by the way.
Thank you.
What do you think about the idea that, as with the proliferation and popularization and the unending sort of death march of AI and data centers, and the because just a few months ago, you were one of the people who, along with Forrest, one of the people who I saw an AI clip of on TikTok. There was a clip
Yeah.
of you going around that was you saying stuff you would never say, and there was also a clip of Forrest going around. And right now we're in a spot with AI where it seems like if it's 2 or 3 months old, the technology is completely different from what it is today. And it's like it was pretty good 3 months ago, and now with like Sora 2, it's looking even better. What do you think of the idea that maybe, because everything you're saying right now with like getting off the internet, pulling back, talking to dead accounts that are just trying to bait you into being angry, what do you think about the idea that maybe this is actually the thing that frees us from the shackles of the internet, that if it gets to the point where enough people realize that there's not, dead internet theory, basically, if it gets to the point where enough people go, I can't tell what's real and what's not, every other video I see is fake, and I can't, from watching a video of a really prominent person doing something and then I find out that video is fake and that's every other video, what's the point of being here at all? And is that something that gets people more and more to just start engaging in real life again? I don't know. What do you think
Yeah,
about that?
the first few times that somebody presented dead internet theory to me, I think they presented it kind of unclearly, and I just scoffed.
Yeah.
And then somebody made the case that no, we're not saying you're never interacting with real people, but that there are so many retired accounts and dead accounts and fake accounts that were used either by marketing firms to bolster, you could just buy subscribers and stuff like that. And there were very few limits on creating accounts. And so it's not surprising that there are farms of created accounts. We know, well, I say we know, I have seen what I consider to be good information that, for example, China and Russia are having teams of individuals. Like one guy might have hundreds of accounts, and then their job is just to post stirring up shit, to agree or disagree, to poke this person. And they're poking everybody on all sides because what they seem to want is chaos, in the United States in particular, because that benefits them. If we're falling apart, if we can't fix our shit here, we can't go interfering with their stuff there. And
Yeah.
I did some experiments. It was every time I saw a name that I didn't know, and it happens all day, every day, because there's, people following me that I've never heard of. If they disagreed or challenged what I said, I would immediately go to their page on Facebook or whatever and look at their information and see how much was there and how many, for example, public facing posts of any sort they have in the last 3 or 4 years. And the overwhelming majority of them seem to be largely dead accounts from an outward public perspective. I have no idea, how many of them are just bots, how many of them are trolls, how many of them are a troll running, all these accounts. When I say bots, I don't mean they're like necessarily automated and they're in the server farm or whatever else, but bots, I guess, has become for me a substitute for, I've got 300 sock puppet accounts, says
Right.
Jim Bot
Right.
on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the reasons why I faded back a little bit, because it was a lot of time. Like I'm almost terminal, or was almost terminally online, and it would be nothing for me to post, you know, 20, 30 corrections in the span of a few hours, or it's nicer when I know the person. And I found that when I backed off and I waited to interact with people I knew and people who, I just did a video, it's not out yet. It's about verisimilitude, but the notion that something has the feel of truth. And so I can tell when some emails come in, this was written by ChatGPT. It's getting harder and harder to do.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I've been fooled many times, but there are still some you can see. And then there's also some emails that come in where I'm like, I don't think this person is genuine. And so, for example, I'm gonna pull one up right now. The subject line of the email is, "How are you certain that there is no God?" Now, right off the bat, nobody who's watched any significant amount of content from me could ask that question in a direct email to me seriously, because I'm not only not saying I'm certain there is no God, I'm the guy that says I don't think you can be certain about anything. And to whatever extent I disbelieve, it's about a burden of proof and a failure to meet that burden of proof. And it's not an assertion that I am certain there is no God. So to ask that question is already a problem. But the email says, if the Bible is true, disbelief in Christ carries eternal stakes. Yes, I'm aware of that. That's true for anything and everything in that realm. If the Quran is true, then believing in Christ also carries eternal stakes as well. And he's like, given what's at risk, so immediately we know it's going to be Pascal's wager, one would need overwhelming certainty that the God of the Bible does not exist before dismissing Christianity. That's wrong and a really silly version of Pascal's wager. Because if you would need overwhelming certainty to dismiss Christianity, you would also need overwhelming certainty to dismiss all the other religions for which there are consequences. And since all of them may be unfalsifiable and none of them can be certain, what you've done is you've not just shifted the burden of proof, you have shifted the burden of proof and adopted one as the one that is excluded from this. And so the question that they came with was, what evidence or reason has convinced you that the natural world is entirely self-explanatory? Another position that I've never expressed. I believe the natural world exists. I think all of us would agree that. I have no belief in the supernatural, but I have never said, nor would I advocate, that the natural world is in fact entirely self-explanatory. I don't know how you can demonstrate that. There may be a supernatural component, but you would have, anybody claiming that would have the burden of proof on there. And so how do you show that it doesn't require a transcendent cause or a sustainer? It's not up to me to show that it doesn't require that. It's up to you to show that it does. And I explained all this in my response. But he goes, before we even get to comparing religions, you must first establish that reality itself needs no God. No, every bit of this is, you've got to prove that we don't need a God. No, I don't. You have to prove that we do need a God. We know the natural world exists.
Also, when this person says, when they say before we get to comparing religions, are they saying that atheism is your religion? That we're comparing belief sets? Like, is that what they're saying?
I think they're saying that you have to, if you can't prove there is no God, then you must accept that there is some God and then begin comparing religions to find the right one. I think.
Okay.
But they wrapped it up with, if you can't demonstrate that the cosmos is metaphysically self-sufficient, then the question isn't whether some religious claim might be true, but which one actually is. No, that is completely fallacious. My inability, or the inability of everyone ever in the history of the world, to show that the cosmos is metaphysically self-sufficient tells you nothing about whether or not it is metaphysically self-sufficient. That is a failure in our ability to demonstrate something. It may in fact be self-sufficient or it may not. And what you're doing is saying, if you can't prove that it's self-sufficient, then we must conclude that it's not. And that's like saying, if you can't prove that the butler did it, we must conclude that the butler is innocent. And while I'm fine with presumed innocent or presumption of innocence until guilt is demonstrated, in that case, that's a case where we need to make a decision on this. When it comes to the origin or foundation or ontology of the cosmos, the right answer seems to be, I don't know. And I'm saying I don't know, but they're saying, oh, I know, it's God. And it's this particular God that likes slaves and hates foreskin.
Yeah. I was thinking about so what you said to the original point of like, what you've done is not only just shifted the burden of proof, but you've also adopted this one specific belief set that doesn't require that same, kind of deal to be made about needing, the high level that you need to cross to be able to, rule out a belief in that God, that holy book describes. It reminds me of like the old, atheist argument that's just sort of like, you're an atheist with is just as many gods as I am, except plus one. Like, I disbelieve in one more God than you do. But I was thinking about this with the whole rapture thing that happened last month, when everyone thought that that the rapture was going to happen on the 23rd and 24th of September. And I was thinking a lot about religious psychosis, and I feel like this is something that a lot of people have been talking about. But it was interesting. I posted on Threads to be kind of antagonistic and to just kind of poke a bear, because sometimes I do that on Threads, because I'm not yet done, I guess, feeding egregores and fighting with bots. But I posted, just several clips of people talking about how they were certain that the rapture was going to happen, and I just said Christianity is a mental illness, and I didn't say anything else. And all of these Christians in the comments started going, well, that's not all of us. Like, those people are crazy, but that's not us. And then I started going, like, explain to me, like, what the difference is between what you think and what these people think. Like, why are you not crazy? And then I'd go, so do you believe that that God transformed himself into a human by impregnating a virgin and then had himself die for the sins of all mankind, only to rise 3 days later, from the grave? You believe all that? Why is that less crazy than these people believing that they're going to be raptured on the 23rd and 24th of September? Like, where is the line? Because everyone's certain, like, all the normal Christians were coming out of the woodwork to go, no, we're not crazy like them. But it's like, I don't know. You believe just as many outlandish. Yeah, what were you going to say?
The claims that some of them accept might be colloquially crazy, but Christianity isn't mental illness.
I know. I was saying it to be.
And individual Christians may not, in fact, be mentally ill, because you can be sincerely wrong and believe something absolutely ridiculous for bad reasons and not be mentally ill. You just be, subject to apply. Now, maybe they're all mentally ill, because all of us are mentally ill, and that that's one of our problems, is that we accept irrational conclusions and claims on a regular basis. It's just, how do we rationalize it? But I would, if you think that talking snakes existed, and that some guy came down and was killed and rose in 3 days and ascended to heaven in clouds, and spit on some dirt and rubbed it on somebody's eyes to heal them, and all of those things, what you may or may not be mentally ill, but you are, until you can demonstrate otherwise, presumed completely irrational on those subjects. And that's enough.
Yeah. I want to be clear. The reason why I used that term, by the way, is just because it's the blanket term that they use for people that they disagree, that they just, instead of having to actually argue about the reality of gender diversity in the world, argue about whether or not there actually are more than two categories of people in the world when it comes to, gender and sexuality. Instead of having to actually debate that, they just say it's a mental illness. They so I
get the poking there.
Yeah. So I was just basically going, your thing's a mental illness. and I think that I have a much better basis for making that inflammatory claim than you do for making the one.
If I was like taking lives or whatever else, and somebody's like, well, that what you're saying is mental illness. Okay, cool. Let's take what I'm saying, what I'm believing, and you're going to describe that as mental illness. And let's see if you believe things that are more ridiculous and why you don't think that's mental illness. I think neither of them are necessarily mental illness, but all I really care, because there's plenty I'm probably mentally ill. Most of the people I know are mentally ill of some sort. I care more about whether or not something's true, and whether or not it's rational and reasonable. Rationable. No, that would be like doling out things in quantities. Like I can ration out these candy corns. Which I ate this morning. I had candy corn this morning. For all the people who hate them, I like them, don't care.
And they are able to be rationed. You can ration candy corn.
and in our MREs, meals ready to eat, that in the military they would basically get this bag, and you could heat it up if you wanted to. It even came with a little heat pack and everything else, but you didn't have to eat it. Mostly we ate them cold. But my favorites, I never got any with candy corn. I don't know if they do that, but if you were really lucky, you got one of the MREs that had a little bag of M&Ms in it. And so even if you ate this old cold chicken pasta and put so much Tabasco on it that that's all you tasted to make it edible, you still got M&Ms at the end to bring it home.
Yeah. No, but I get what you're saying there, that that's the point that I was trying to, again, poking a bear and and just sort of turning language around. But it's like, if we were going to have an argument about whose worldview seems to be less sound when it comes to your grasp on observable reality, and that's because I agree with you. I've never met a human being that doesn't have some thing that could be described as a mental illness. I don't know that I've ever met a person that I'm like, oh, you seem to be completely clear of all, ailments, and that there doesn't seem to be anything that's vexing you existentially, or that you don't seem to struggle with any form of anxiety or depression or any kind of personality disorder. I don't think I've ever met a person that doesn't have at least one of those. But I think this idea, especially with all this rapture talk, we saw all of these Christians coming out of the woodwork to talk about why all of these crazy TikTok Christians didn't represent Christianity, why they were different. And I'm curious about that. If there are any theists watching this show right now, I'm curious to hear, like, what about the people who thought they were going to be raptured on the 23rd and 24th, what makes them crazier than you? And what about your worldview is more reasonable, more rational, more sound? Why exactly are they the crazy Christians, and why are you the sane ones? And explain it to us if you can. Call the number on the screen, 720-619-2288, and let us know.
I don't have TikTok anymore, and so I saw all of the rapture stuff secondhand. And one of the problems I had is that some of the rapture things were obviously fake and obviously shown to be fake later. Like, here's a video of somebody saying, I sold all my stuff. I gave away my house, and all I've got is my car and this, this bag of laundry. Well, it turns out, no, that was just someone basically mocking these people. And that's not a true story. And I remember at the Rapture Ram in Oakland back in, I don't know, the 20-teens. I'm not going to remember exactly. When Harold Camping had announced that there was going to be rapture, and despite the fact that I don't know who had a bigger audience, TikTok's got a bigger audience than Harold Camping, obviously, but we knew at the time that there were people who sold their homes, bought RVs, headed out. There are a lot of these apocalyptic cults and cult-like, because I'm careful. I try to be careful with the word cult, but when you convince a bunch of people that the end is nigh, so much that they invest in it fully, the end is definitely nigh, because you are destroying their past life. These are people who are going to, at a minimum, have to start over. And when I was a Christian, for example, to me, it was very clear that to whatever extent God was coming back, nobody could know the day or hour. And also, I think there's this implication that it couldn't even appear that somebody knew the day and the hour. And I remember as a kid having this thought, if you never want God to come back, just post predictions every day, every hour, saying God's coming back in 1 hour, God's coming back in the next hour, God's coming back in the next hour. You could have a website that does that. And then when you get it right, everybody be like, oh, that one got it right. But you made, 75 million predictions and all of them were wrong except for one. But if God can't come back, for fear that he'd have to take the website down, God would have to nuke it first and then come in the gap while they were rebooting the server.
I really like that. That's a really fun thought experiment. But I like stuff like that too, to just kind of go, obvious. I mean, I don't think someone absolutely could do that. I could see someone in our audience going and building a website like that. But I just like the idea of, even without building the website, you can explain what's wrong with that logic by saying, well, if I were to predict every day, every hour, God would not be able to return because until I am silenced. But let's say I start an entire order of people who are going to pick up where I left off if I'm killed, and it's the predictions will never end, and it's these little weird loopholes in the story and the mythos. It's like my issues with the devil, where it's I can't get around the fact that he's playing a part in all of it. He's playing an essential role in the plan, and I when I was a kid, I would always think, yeah, but why does he just not participate? Wouldn't that be a better plan? Wouldn't he just go, oh, I'm not going to play then. If I have to be the bad guy, if that's the role that and your plan requires that I do this, that I fulfill, then I'm just not going to participate. And why would he not be able to figure that out with infinite time on his hands, with an infinite consciousness that's been, that seems to have been around at least as long as the Earth's been around? You'd think he would be able to figure out that loophole and go, I'm just going to not participate anymore. I'm just going
to. I came up with the idea before there was an internet. And now I just realized, instead of having like one site that updates predictions every hour, you could have a script, and you could have, let's say, 365 individual domains. Be kind of expensive. And it could be God returns March 1st.com, God returns March 2nd.com. And so you have all those up there. And then you just constantly update for the hour. And then every time another hour passes, you update each of those pages across the board. And now all of a sudden it looks like, instead of making a bunch of different predictions, you went to this one domain. If God returns, if Jesus shows up on March 31st to say, happy birthday, Matt. Now all of a sudden, God returns March 31st.com they were right the whole time. And even if they got the hour wrong, the people, it'd still be like, hey, God came back. The problem is that every time somebody makes a prediction about the second coming, they forget about the evidently infinite refractory period, because God can't come a second time if he didn't come a first time. But
yeah, I think that I really, really like that. It's just a fun thought experiment. It's fun. It's a fun thing to think about setting up, and just to sort of illustrate the. But yeah, I saw a lot of that with the Rapture chat, that there were a lot of Christians, but I found it just as silly that Christians would kind of go, listen, guys, don't listen to all these people who say that the rapture is going to happen. The Bible's pretty clear. No man can know the hour or the day. And I would just kind of think, like, that's so funny to me, though, that you're dismissing them as delusional, biblically illiterate, fools who don't represent true Christianity. But the book that you're using is a book that is loaded with more contradictions than maybe perhaps any authoritative book when it comes to how people, I mean, authoritative in the sense that millions and billions of human beings use it as an authoritative book that dictates their worldview and their opinions and their personal philosophy. The book is so wildly inconsistent, and also people have such a hard time agreeing on what basic passages mean all the time, and different sects of Christianity. So I just found it interesting that people could go, oh, don't worry, it's really clear. No man knows, the hour or the day. But I've seen Christians, right. I watched a video the other day where, the Corinthians excerpt that the Catholics always read at their weddings. God is patient, or love is patient, love is kind, love does not boast, love is not, that whole thing. This woman was saying, she was like, well, somebody pointed out to me at church that if God is love, then you can replace the word love with God in that passage. So God is patient, God is kind, God is not boastful, God is not jealous. And this guy was responding to her like, God is all of those. I mean, God is not patient at all. In fact, God regularly brags about, like, not only is God boastful, but he brags about being impatient, and brags about and not only is God jealous, so it says God is not jealous. No, not only is he jealous, he literally says, I am a jealous God, and I am a wrathful God, and I am, and not patient at all. It's like, need long at all for you to disobey me or make me mad to, you know, like the fact that the idea of original sin, that it was like, because of this initial disobedience, I am going to make everyone's starting place from here to the end of the earth. Your starting place is going to be hell. You are all going to be born with wearing the mark, the consequence of this original sin, and you're going to have to prove your way out of there to me throughout your lifetime, you know, through your short mortal life. And but yeah, if it's an interesting thing. Like a Christian would love to look at that and go, "Oh, that's so beautiful. God is patient. God is kind. God is not boastful. God is not jealous. Not jealous." And it's like, what the hell are you talking about? That runs counter to the entire characterization.
We've got some announcements I want to get to, and then some callers. But my favorite thing in that line is, God is love. Love is blind. Stevie Wonder is blind. Therefore, Stevie Wonder is God.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, Arden's got information about a fundraiser that we're working on this coming weekend. Hello, boss lady.
Yes. Hello. Yeah, you guys, we got wow, it looks like my mic is hitting really low levels. Is it quiet for y'all?
Yeah, you need to crank it up a little bit.
Let me bump it up a little. Hopefully that's better. All right, so we are doing our second ever annual Secular Student Alliance fundraiser. So our second fundraiser of the year, it's going to be this Saturday, October 18th, starting at 12 p.m. Central Time. We're going to have a bunch of your line hosts that you guys all know and love. And we're also going to have a few guest hosts. I believe Chad Harris is going to be on. We're going to have Mandisa back, among some others. So we are trying to raise, I believe it's $30,000 for the Secular Student Alliance, which, considering you guys did $90,000 for the Recovering from Religion fundraiser earlier this year, this should be easy for you guys. So please make sure you set your reminders on your calendar for this Saturday, October 18th at 12 p.m. Central Time to show up and help us raise some money for, you know, helping the next generation of atheist, secular activists to affect good change in our government. And we
got to do that because Turning Point right now is on a tear ever since, you know who took a dive. So I'm trying to talk about that as respectfully as I can, and I didn't do a very good job. But you know, Turning Point USA has been going crazy on college campuses ever since that happened, and we need to make sure that there's solid resistance with the Secular Student Alliance. So help us out with that.
Also, sorry, real quick before I relinquish it back to you guys. Also, I put up a poll in chat saying, do you think the God of the Bible is real and true? And out of 445 votes, 2% said yes, absolutely, I will phone in. And there is currently no theists on the line. So I thought the Bible also said to not tell lies. And clearly you guys are not very good followers of your own God that you believe in.
Well, maybe. Yeah, I mean, you're right. I retract my objection.
2% of 450? I don't know. I'm bad at math, but that's a lot of you guys just sitting in the audience here refusing to follow through with your word. Cowards.
She's right.
That's 10 people. Give or take.
She's right.
All right. So we're expecting 10 callers any minute now. So we're going to go ahead and take this this atheist caller. Rebecca is calling from Malta, pronouns are she, her. Hey, Rebecca, how are you and how can we help?
Hi, good evening.
Oh,
wow. Rebecca immediately disconnected. Yeah.
Oh.
Rebecca's on the web client. It may be that if she's using the web client on her phone, maybe her cheek touched something that hung up. But Rebecca, give us a call back and I'll put you through right away.
Yeah. That's a bummer if you spend all that time waiting with your phone up to your ear, and maybe your cheek just bumps the hang up button right as you get on the show. But hey, theists as well, you can see that number on the screen, 720-619-2288, in case you're not looking at the screen, in case you just have us on in your car while you're driving or something like that. Give us a call, let us know. Let us know why. Am I wrong about that poem? Let's call it, from Corinthians. Am I wrong about my assessment of the character of God? Am I, or Are we, why is Turning Point USA a better organization to direct the youths of America than the Secular Student Alliance? Call in and let us know your position on any of these things. We're ready. We are here.
They're seeing a boost, but I'm pretty sure that Turning Point is going to die because they lost their one draw, and it was replaced by essentially what they think and would call a DEI hire, by basically turning it over to an unqualified, nepotistic, familial hire to take over.
But here's the question, Matt. Do you actually think they give a shit about that? Because I think that these people are so used to being wildly inconsistent with, like, if it was anyone other than Kirk's wife, they'd probably say that if he was still alive and he said, I'm going to hand the reins over to this, lovely black woman who we want to give an opportunity to, they would absolutely hate that. But they have no problem, being intellectually inconsistent and being like, oh, there's nothing wrong with Erica Kirk being the CEO of Turning Point. She absolutely earned that job. They don't care if people get jobs through nepotism or, DEI, as long as it's somebody that reflects kind of their worldview. And Erica Kirk is a white blonde woman who's friends with the president. That's the best kind of woman there is.
Yeah. So we got Rebecca calling back. So hopefully we got that sorted. Rebecca, thanks for calling back.
Can you hear me now?
You're live. We hear you.
Fantastic. So my question is, defending the claim that we cannot have humanism without Christianity. That's one part. And the second part, do you think there's any truth to this?
Well, no, I don't think there's any truth to it. It's ridiculous. The only thing you need for humanism is humans and a desire to make a better world. But if somebody's saying you can't have humanism without Christianity, I'd point out that you can't have a cure for cancer without cancer.
Okay. And my thinking is on the lines that every thought system, every philosophy is likely based on something that developed earlier. So there could be some truth that humanism came out of a system in which it was allowed to come out from. And maybe Christianity might have been a part of it, but not all. Could there be any basis to thinking that way?
I mean, I'll be completely honest with you, Rebecca. I hear this a lot from Christians, that like our moral and ethical worldview as atheists comes from them, that we get our moral framework from them. And it's a assertion that I roundly reject all the time, because I just don't see. I personally think that my moral and ethical worldview got a lot broader and better after I deconstructed from my Christian upbringing. But I also when I look at the book that they supposedly get their moral and ethical framework from, and think that I don't see a lot of humanism in the book. I don't really see humans doing things to just try to help other humans for the sake of helping other humans. I see like story after story after story of people who are trembling in fear of a psychotic God who's just kind of telling them to do things that contradict each other every other chapter. And the only reason humans are doing anything is because they're terrified of running afoul of this like maniac villain character that's just like, don't fuck up or I will absolutely fuck your whole life up, and I will fuck your eternity up too. And so I look at the book and I'm like, where are you getting the humanism other than maybe some stories of Christ, where Christ is in his ministry is just trying to preach like, just be a good person for the sake of being a good person. But even then it's still attached to this like reward, but it's like, be a good person in the same way I am, because that's that's your ticket into heaven. And I still don't just see it as like, be a good person, be nice to people, because that's just a better way to be, and it helps us make a better world, as Matt said. so I don't know. I don't see where humanism comes out of the Bible. I think much more like Matt said, I just think humanism is a response to the morality in the Bible. It is the counter to it. It's like, actually, how about instead of doing sometimes good things because we're terrified of a maniac, psychotic God who's going to punish us forever if we don't, how about we just do it because it helps? Because like it helps me feel better when I'm kind and when I do acts of service, and it helps the people around me, and when I help the people around me feel better, my community grows and strengthens, and it makes the world better. How about that? You know, and I think, I don't know, I guess in that sense I'm with Matt that like the only way humanism comes from Christianity is as a direct antithetical response to it, the same way that chemotherapy comes from a response to cancer.
I hear you, and now that you've expanded, I agree with you. I just think I just think there may be something in Christianity post-Renaissance, not Christianity in its early form and in the medieval period. It's more like nowadays some Christian ideas have, especially if we take progressive Christianity, there is an element of humanism there. So I'm thinking maybe in a debate with a friend or in a discussion with a friend who's saying this, I can give a little, or should I not?
Well, you said that you think in modern Christianity there are elements of humanism, and I'm wondering like what?
Like, for example, the idea of inclusion. It's because Christianity and progressive Christianity, they're more inclusive than they used to be.
The Bible is not inclusive. The Bible sets up the Jews as God's preferred people. Jesus came down to specifically draw a line to divide those. But women aren't, granted, women weren't allowed to have checking accounts and things in the United States, but women aren't equal. Other people aren't equal to Jews. Where is this inclusion?
So 100%, I agree with you. The thing is, Christians aren't following the Bible nowadays. They're following their own individual interpretation.
And if they're doing that,
speaking to someone pardon?
If they're doing that, then the answer is you've stolen something from Christianity, because the only foundation you have for your Christianity is the Bible until you demonstrate otherwise. And if you're ignoring what the Bible says and you're adopting humanist principles, then we didn't borrow from you, you borrowed from us.
So if I study a bit more, I can say that humanism can stand on its own 2 feet.
Humanism does stand on its own 2 feet.
Okay.
So humanism, I'd recommend reading both the original manifesto, the Humanist Manifesto 1, and then versions 2 and 3. All of them are available online at various humanist websites and on Wikipedia. But the Humanist Manifesto, the first one, comes out and basically declares that secular humanism is a secular religion, recognizing that whether or not there's a God, we are apparently here and have to solve our problems on our own, and that if we want a better world, it's up to us to make that better world. None of those things are consistent with any version of Orthodox Christianity. At best, the closest it might come is somebody advocating for this hippy-dippy. It's like there's a bunch of gay churches, incredible gay-friendly churches. They have rainbow flags up all over everywhere, and they have, gay, non-binary, lesbian, trans creatures preaching the love of Jesus. And I find it stupid and fucking offensive beyond measure. And yet they are absolutely better people than the fundamentalists, better people than the Catholics, better people in general. But the problem is they have stupidly clung to the name and aspects of the doctrine as a matter of convenience because they think, wrongly, that this gives them credibility. I was raised a Southern Baptist, and there's no such thing as a gay-friendly Southern Baptist church. There are Baptist churches that do this, but it's not biblical. When the Bible says if a man lies with a man as he lies with a woman, they've committed an abomination or deserving of death. That is not a gay-friendly thing. And they can try and spin it as many different ways they want. They go, well, in the ancient Hebrew, when we go back and look at that, what that really meant was about whether or not you were a top or a bottom, or what that really meant was about whether or not you were involved with someone who was too young to consent, or what that really meant is this other thing. Okay. I don't believe there's a God behind any of these messages. But these gay-friendly churches absolutely seem to think that there is a God behind these messages, and they think God is too fucking stupid to say what he means. And so they need to interpret it in a way that is soft. That is absolutely antithetical to traditional biblical Christianity. To make up your own version. Professing themselves wise, they became fools. And not everybody who calls me Lord, Lord is one of mine. I find that gay-friendly churches are fraudulent if they appeal to the Bible, and yet they're full of wonderful people who are trying their best to make something good out of something that's shit.
I get you.
Yeah, and I'm friends. I'm friends with a lot of people like that who people get caught in. It's like people get stuck in the middle of deconstruction. It's like they start realizing all of these different ways that Christianity, traditional Christianity, does not seem to fit with their modern moralistic sensibilities or worldview. And instead of just stepping back and being able to just say, maybe the whole thing, maybe I can be a good person and lead a good life and have a strong community and ditch the whole thing. It's like this half measure. And I agree with what Matt said, that like it's, they do it maybe to retain credibility, that they've got the name, the brand of being Christian. But yeah, I think it's, I don't know. I also agree that a good response you could have when people say you get humanism from us is, Christianity, modern Christianity has taken humanism from humanists. You're the ones who have molded and reshaped what your doctrines and gospel are in order to sound more like us, instead of just ditching it all together and just, forming a more honest.
And I get it to some extent. It is, I'm an oddball in that I was absolutely in the all or nothing camp. Either there is a God and he said what he meant and he has instructions and this is true, or it's not. Because as soon as you start going through cherry picking, you are making yourself God. You are putting yourself in God's shoes. And you're saying, oh, here's what the Bible meant. Oh, these verses were added. This was changed. This was right. This is wrong. And so you are not even just a cafeteria Christian or a Bible buffet user, but you're doing it with a specific goal in mind. Now, I know that, for example, Westboro Baptist Church, the God hates F slur people, they are on better biblical footing than any gay church in the world. They just are on the plain reading of it. But they are worse people and they are doing harm. But I get it. It's already difficult enough to be queer in the modern world. It should be getting easier and easier, but it's actually getting more difficult for many people in that category. And so one of my former co-hosts was a lesbian and an atheist. And she said that coming out as atheist was much more difficult. Like when she came out as a lesbian to her family, they're like, yeah, we know. But when she came out as an atheist, that was a bigger deal. For the people who are queer and are finding themselves at odds with traditional religions, it makes sense to maintain a protective community where you feel safe, where you are valued, where you are respected, but it is still, as far as I can tell, an entirely comforting lie. And it is not, in fact, consistent. It's not like there's a theologically sound version of the Bible that says, hey, you know what? God made you, and God made you gay or straight or bi or trans or non-binary or whatever else. And that's all fine. If it's not in the book, you're now adding to the book. And when you add to the book in conflict with other things the book says or seems to say, at a minimum, you are at odds with what has been understood to be the traditional understanding. And I know that there's some folks out there be like, okay, but yes, we know more about the language and we've done more research and we find this. Cool. Why is it for those believers, for those gay church believers who think that God's real and Jesus is real, why did God wait until, I don't know, 2015, 2020 to really start digging in and clearing up the confusion about homosexuality? And why is it the opposite of what it is in the book? It doesn't make sense. And so there are churches, this is my last little dig on this, and I'll turn it back over to you, Rebecca, but there are churches that have this view that the Bible isn't literally true, and there may not even be a literal God, but it's an incredibly important spiritual guidebook with instructions on how to live a better life and figure out what matters and everything else. And I find that to be absolute obvious bullshit and some of the greatest lies that people tell themselves all the time. You cannot have a book that allows for slavery. You cannot have a book that has women as second-tier citizens. You cannot have a book where the Jews are God's chosen people and everybody else is at a second tier, where there's completely a different set of rules for one group of people than another based on their genetics. That's just fucking racist. And it is bizarre to me that God would create people with foreskins and then demand that they be removed. And that is a show of how devoted you are to God, that you would go and remove hundreds of foreskins and put them in a bag in order to turn them over in order to buy your bride. It is bizarre to me that they include stories about people turning to salt, about talking snakes, talking donkeys, about two daughters getting their dad drunk so he would impregnate them, about a guy offering to sacrifice the first thing that comes out of his house if he wins a war, and it turns out to be his daughter, and woe is me, but God had to know that it was going to be his daughter before he made the deal. None of this shit makes any sense. And so what people are doing is saying, you know what? The fundamentalist Christians, they believe some unjustified bullshit and they view this book in a particular way. Why can't we do that? Why can't we respin this and make it all better? And I know pastors, and I've heard from pastors who are like, hey, I don't believe in God anymore, but I'm going to keep my job because I think I can do good work here, softening the message of Christianity. I understand that. I understand that. I just don't agree with it. I think it's condescending and insulting to say, I'm ready to be free from this delusion. I'm ready to be free from these lies, but the little people aren't. So I'm going to stay here and help them. I think there are more people who would be willing and appreciative of exposing the fallacies, which is why I do what I do. But I could be wrong because there's many different ways to skin a cat, just not my cat.
Yeah. Thank you for helping me work through that doubt. I appreciate it. If you have some more time, I'd like to make another comment in relation to Islam and humanism as well. But otherwise, I'll just call another time.
No, go ahead.
Okay. So I've been looking up some information about early Islam, and I found that there was something called Mutazilism, which was as I can understand, it's humanism in the 8th century. So it was seeking rationality over everything else, and even the people who were studying this, they were thinking that even the Quran was created by human beings, because the theological belief is that the Quran is uncreated, right? And there was this place in what is now Iraq called the House of Wisdom. That's what they used to call it. were during the building of the Islamic Empire, because they were coming across different cultures. They were studying these cultures, they were conquering. So they had scholars there who were studying all these different cultures, and then a school of humanism started, but it was crushed about 100 years later, more or less, by a guy called Al-Ghazali. So this, even then, there was an element of humanism starting to build up. And then the dogma of the religion seems to have taken over, and it was squashed. And I've been listening to some other scholars, both Muslims and non-Muslim scholars, say this about Islam. And then I was reading about, what's that old code called? The Hammurabi Code?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've studied it, but there is like a secular element in there and a humanist element. And like, it really, really saddens me to see these attempts like over 1,000 years ago and more. In the case of the Hammurabi Code, I think that's more than 2,000 years ago. Like, and then religion takes over and it squashes this like free thinking. And it's just, I don't know, it just like the more you see, like people were trying, you know, already to be more humanist. There were movements in this direction, and then dogma squashes it. Like, it's just so sad. And then billions of people around the world follow it, and like we could have been so much better, so much quicker, without having to put other human beings through suffering without these religions. Sorry, I just wanted to speak to like-minded people and just put that out there.
No, I hear you. I'm familiar with the Code of Hammurabi. Austin, do you know that much about the origins of Islam and alternate versions? Because I don't.
I don't either.
Sorry, let me just correct that. It wasn't a version of Islam. They had scholars in the empire studying different things, maths, geometry, but also what we would call the humanist thought. So it was just like scholars, you know, thinking, philosophizing. That's what it was.
The individual you're talking about banned mathematics and basically set Islam.
Yes, as well.
Yeah,
he believed it was like sorcery.
Yes, and set Islam back, stuck in like Dark Ages mentality at some point. It doesn't surprise me there's plenty of. So, for example, I'm a moderate fan of Zoran Mamdani and oh my gosh, who's the Muslim that I think is just brilliant?
I don't know.
He's a debater and schools everybody left and right, but he's great. Anyway, I don't see that their version. I don't see that their version of Islam is any more justified than the gay church's version of Christianity. But I'm glad they're there, and I'm glad they exist, and I'm glad there's better versions of things. But at the end of the day, I only care if it's true. And if you're using the Christian label or the Muslim label, and you're supporting the exact same holy book as the bigots, and you're supporting many of the same practices as the bigots, and I don't really care to get into a discussion about whose interpretation is on perhaps stronger footing. Mehdi Hassan, that's who it was. I don't care if it turns out that version of Islam is the correct one, and the ones that advocate, for example, like Daniel Hikikachu and others who are making excuses for pederasty and all kinds of stuff. If that one's the false one, it would be nice to know. But yet at the end of the day, my concern is not whether or not you can find a good version of Islam or you can find a good version of Christianity, but if you can find a true one, because I don't need a good version of Christianity and I don't need a good version of Islam. I already have humanism, which is a good version of itself and does not make supernatural appeals and does not,
Yeah, and there's not a lot of room for interpretation in humanism. Would you say that statement is correct?
No, I think there's tons of room for. I think humanism. We don't pretend to have the problem solved, and there's nothing dogmatic. So The second we find a better way to do something.
What I mean is like the principles of humanism, like it's very difficult to misinterpret them, I think. Am I wrong in that assumption?
Oh yeah, no, I that's part of the goal, I think, is clarity, so that you have a message that isn't ambiguous. It's just that not everything in humanism is particularly well defined, because we don't necessarily know enough to say, ooh, this is the path that is better. All we can say is we want to find the path that's better, so we're going to use the tools there. Kind of like with science.
But there's nothing in humanism which is a direct instruction for a path. That's not
correct.
What humanism is. Am I misunderstanding you?
No, that's correct.
Okay, so it doesn't have to be that then. Humanism, the intention of humanism is not to give you instructions on a way to live. It's just to give you the skeleton, like the backbone by which you act. Yeah. Am I correct?
Yeah.
It's almost
so it
more.
Doesn't have to do that.
Well, the difference is that humanism, like, and you identified this earlier, which I think is really it's an important distinction. You identified that the problem mainly with not just Islam, but with or just with Christianity, but with most organized forms of religion, is dogma. Is the idea that kind of the difference between suggestions for healthy, moral, and ethical living versus commandments for moral and ethical living, saying you must do this or you do not meet the standard that is set forth by some kind of cosmological arbiter or judge who's going to hold you accountable for your behavior in some kind of supernatural afterlife. You are commanded, you are, implored by this philosophy to behave a certain way, versus where I think humanism lies, which is more in just a suggestion of, here are some things that you could adopt and some behaviors that you could do that would help you live a more fruitful and life where you feel like you're, of use to the people around you and your community. And it's you talked about this earlier, that like there was maybe an aim to try to build Islam out of something like that. We're just trying to collect knowledge from all of these different communities, that we're conquering and going around and gathering information from. But then dogma puts an end to all of that and goes, no, there is a strict, hard way that it has to be. And if it's not that, it's an abomination in the eyes of our God, and our God will hold us eternally accountable if we aren't adhering to the letter of his law perfectly, or at least striving to adhere to the letter of his law perfectly. And I think that, I just think at the end of the day, the sort of major distinction is just the difference between suggestions versus commandments.
Yeah, and these religions, they can't, like, there's that saying of Maya Angelou, I'm going to paraphrase, when you know better, you do better. And you can't do that with Christianity, with Islam. There's none of that learning. It's like the book is closed,
They actually, often encourage that you only study the book and only take interpretations of the book from people who, are approved sources, but they often discourage learning outside of the religion, which is, it's the opposite of encouraging people to know better so that they can do better.
Yeah.
It's actually encouraging people it's encouraging people to prohibit themselves from knowing better so that they are not capable of doing better.
Okay. That's all I have for today. I don't want to take up more of your time unnecessarily.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate the call and the patience.
Yeah, I just want to thank you so much for helping me work through this. It just helps me put things a bit more in perspective. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you. As a reminder, This is the line. This is the Sunday show here on the line, 720-619-2288. Also, there's a link in the description downstairs, down below this video that you can click to call us via call-in studio. The line is a network here on YouTube, at least for as long as they'll permit us, since we're all now violent extremists, domestic terrorists, merely for having thoughts that don't align with dear leaders' view of a better world. But this isn't the only program on the line. It's not even the only program on the line today. We're doing the Sunday show here today at 2 o'clock, which we're in the midst of right now, 2 p.m. Central. And then at 7 p.m. tonight, Central Time, there will be a Sunday show after dark. Monday is Skeptalk. That's Monday evenings. Tuesday evening is Chewed Gum. Wednesday evening, I'll be back with another episode of The Hang Up, and this week Promise is joining me. Yay! Thursday is the Transatlantic Call-In Show, starting at 2 p.m. Central. And the next weekend, we'll be working on that fundraiser for the Secular Student Alliance as well. I don't know, right now. I mean, we've got a caller we're going to get to in a second, but theists aren't calling, and I'm like, I don't get it. Are they all admitting that they do not have a good reason for anybody else to believe? Are they fine with the notion? I mean, if you think God's okay with homosexuality, what's your reasoning for that? And if you think God's opposed to it, how do you view the gay-friendly churches? Is the Bible even relevant, or does all your information about God come from an internal, the internal witness of the Holy Spirit? And how would you demonstrate any of that? These are things that I used to believe to some extent when I was a fundamentalist Christian, and now I don't. And it's getting more and more difficult for me to put myself back in the mindset of someone who sincerely believed all this. So if you think that you have an argument, a genuine argument for why you're right about God and what God thinks, or the Bible and what we should accept about the Bible, etc., or the Quran and what we should accept about the Quran, 720-619-2288. Otherwise, we're just going to assume that you guys are taking the day off. Either you've been raptured or you refuse to defend God on Sundays, which is wild, or you just admit that you can't. Because like the email that I was talking about earlier, the people who are claiming that God exists have adopted a burden of proof. Not accepting their claim doesn't carry a burden of proof. Just like if you say you're a trillionaire, you're the world's first trillionaire. I don't know that there is one, at least not in the sense of dollars. There might be a trillionaire in some currency that's worth a penny. But I don't know that there's one. But me not believing you doesn't mean I'm saying you're wrong. It doesn't mean I'm saying you're a liar. And it doesn't mean that I can prove you wrong. It just means you've made a claim that you have yet to establish as rational to accept. And I'm wondering, if you think you're a rational believer in a God, how could you not call in and explain the rationale behind it? What is the reasoning that makes you a sincere, I'm convinced that God exists, and I'm convinced that I'm rational, I'm not committing fallacies, I'm not delusional. Here's how and why I know that this is the case, and how you can know. Because if it's just a personal revelation to you, as a matter of fact, if there's a theist that believes because of a personal revelation and would like to acknowledge that a personal revelation for them is useless to the two of us or anybody else, I'd love to hear that. Because the number of people who've called in over the years to say, oh, I believe because of, God did a powerful work in my life, or because of answered prayer, or because of this. And none of those things are claims that we have any way to verify. And so it's like, oh, well, how do you know it was God? I just know. Cool. You can tell by the way it is. We have calls lined up right now. So let's start with this. Gene, pronouns he, him, is calling from Texas. Hey, Gene, you're up next.
Yes. Thanks for taking the call.
Sure.
Yeah, I have always wondered, or at least I have for the past several years, did Jesus ever, at least at some point in the New Testament, change his mind about preaching only to the Jews. When he was in Matthew 10, where he says, only to the lost sheep of Israel. No Gentiles, no Samaritans.
Kind of.
Hmm.
I'm not going to have a solid answer, and I'm kind of doing this off the top of my head, and I'll be honest, because of the failure of Christians to do anything even close to defending the Bible, my off the top of my head Bible knowledge is nowhere near as good as it used to be. But if you're talking about, is there any biblical point where Jesus either changes his mind directly about teachings and rules, or in some way? He does say, I've come only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. But he also says, go ye therefore unto all the world, preaching to all nations.
Oh, okay.
And there's also the issue where he seems to have changed his mind on whether or not women can be in any position of authority scripturally to teach. I don't remember the complete. Is it? Hang on, let me pull up my Bible because it might be. It's in Mark. But anyway, Austin, your thoughts on searching?
I'm curious why you're asking the question. Like, what is the why behind the question? Because when I get into questions like this, I just kind of go like, oh, are you telling me that a character in the Bible contradicts himself? Shocker. So like, what, it's like, oh, what, you mean to tell me that he said one thing in one book and another thing in another book that means the exact opposite of it's like, no way. But what is the impetus behind the question for you?
The only reason why I asked is because it does sound like if there's anything like that, it's very indirect and doesn't carry nearly as much weight as the very direct thing in Matthew 10, where he tells his disciples, don't even speak to Gentiles, don't speak to Samaritans, which sounds like we're never even supposed to have heard of them.
So I found the passage I was looking at, and so this is Mark chapter 7, and it's the Syrophoenician woman. So she's a Gentile, and the language, even in the English translations, is a bit kind of coded. But basically what happens is he goes to hide in a house. And a woman whose daughter had an unclean spirit came and fell down his feet, and she was a Gentile, and she begged him to cast the demon out of her daughter. And then Jesus said, let the children be fed first, for it is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. And that's kind of I didn't come for you, you're a Gentile type of statement. I'm going to feed the children of the house of Israel, not you. And the woman says, yes, Lord, but even the dogs under the table get the children's crumbs. And she's basically saying, I'm aware that you came to the children, the lost sheep, the house of Israel, but certainly there are scraps left for the rest of us. And Jesus's reply was, for this statement, you may go your way. The demon has left your daughter. And she went home and found the child lying in bed and the demon gone. Now, obviously, we don't, I don't believe there's demons. I don't believe any of this shit ever happened. But in the story, and Mark, by the way, being the oldest gospel, meaning that the contents of Mark is almost certainly known to the authors of Matthew and Luke, if not perhaps also John. Matthew is a proud Jew who even invents prophecies that we can't find anywhere in Scripture in order to make it look like Jesus fulfills them. And this is where you get the language about coming only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel. The Bible's a fucking mess. And because of that, I mentioned before, like one of my favorite debates of all time was Matt Slick against Jesse. And I apologize, Jesse, I've completely forgotten your name. And I only remember Matt's because Matt and I have debated a few times and kind of halfway know each other a bit. But they were both Christians and they were debating soteriology, essentially what must one do to be saved? And that's the most important issue. If any of this is true, figuring out what you must do or can do to achieve salvation has to be the most important issue. And so they were debating it. And instead of one of them pulling up a verse and saying, here's this verse and here's what it means, and the other one saying, oh, no, you're wrong about what that verse means. Instead, the other one just pulled up a different verse and said, here's this verse and what it means. And they did this kind of jousting with, I can pick verses that seem to align with my view, and you can pick verses that seem to align with your view. And I'm sitting there watching this debate going, give me more popcorn. This is the best thing ever, because every fucking word from these two is an admission that they have no authority. They have no confirmed understanding, that both views can be supported by sincere, committed believers reading into the text what they want to read into it. That's how you get gay-friendly churches. That's how all of it. And it is one of my all-time favorite debates.
I totally get it. Absolutely. Especially since all of this is a moot point for me anyway. I would call myself an ardent or a stalwart atheist.
Yeah. And that's why I was asking the question earlier. Like, I get what the verse that you're pointing at and what it seems to mean. And then as Matt pointed out, it's like, well, anybody can grab a verse and say, I think this means this. And what do we take from that? But my interest is like, what's got you thinking about this today, Gene? Like, what's got you thinking about this particular thing?
Well, it's very much that I like to use this verse when I'm speaking to Christians. Can I just show you this real quick where you're not even supposed to know who this guy is? That's why.
Oh, I see. Okay. I see what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
That like you show them this one verse where it says like we're not even supposed to. Okay, I see what you're saying.
Got it.
Yeah, and then but you could also just go, well, here he says that it's only for, that it's only for the flock of Israel or whatever, and here he says that we should preach it to all peoples of all nations, and the Bible's just loaded with those, as Matt just said, that example of that debate where two people are just quoting their favored verses that seem to support their worldview and interpreting it in whatever way they need to in order to make their argument sound, or at least appear to be sound.
Yeah. Probably the most contradictory book ever written.
Yeah.
No.
Yep.
I think there might. I mean, it's probably close, and so some of the things that people will point to and talk about as contradictory, like if you look at a list of contradictions on websites all over the place, it's fucking garbage. It is a bunch of atheists who don't know anything about the origin, don't bother studying both the languages and history of that, pronouncing, oh, look, this is a contradiction. And I've done that before too, but I've also done some videos exposing it. I think a really good example, and I'm not going to remember exactly, let me see if I can find the actual verses. There's in Proverbs 26 verses 4 and 5. Let me find that. So Proverbs 26 verse 4 says, answer not a fool according to his folly, lest you be like him yourself. And the very next verse says, answer a fool according to his folly, lest he be wise in his own eye. And atheists who evidently are sometimes dumber than a sack of hammers are like, see, those two verses contradict each other. And how stupid does the author have to be to put those two verses back to back? I mean, there's literally one followed right by the other. How did he not realize what the first one said, don't do it, and the second one said, do it? And what it is you're ignoring, not you, but whoever, is ignoring the second half of each one of those verses, because that passage in context is essentially saying, don't respond to a fool with foolishness, lest you get dragged down and look just as foolish as he does. But absolutely respond to a fool to expose their foolishness so that they don't get to think they're wise. It is it's in Proverbs. It is a passage that has to be taken together. But a cursory reading in English from people who haven't bothered looking into it are like, oh, that's a contradiction. And we all fall for those things because almost none of us are biblical experts. I mean, I got a few friends who are biblical experts. I'm not. And yet it's very easy to find things. There are better contradictions in there. And not just contradictions, but conflicting things, whether or not, how many generations down the line will someone's sin apply? Is it 4 generations? Is it 10 generations? And to me, the bigger question is not which of those two is right, but why should anybody's sin be transitioned, inherited by their offspring? If my dad was a prick to somebody, I shouldn't have to pay for that. Including
I
God.
agree.
And I would think that a God should know and understand something like that. It's like, hey, this person's bad, so I'm going to punish their descendants for 10 generations. Roar! Oh, but God's love, and God's not jealous, and God's not bitter and vindictive. No, it's nonsense. There's nothing in that book that doesn't read like it was written by a bunch of backward-ass people trying to make sense of the world.
Definitely. And thanks for adding that indirect sort of stuff in the Bible where Jesus may be alluding to, well, yeah, you can do it for other people as well. And I'm going to use a biblical word, lest I make the same mistake.
Amen.
Of not knowing it.
All right. Thanks, Gene. I appreciate the call.
Thanks so much.
Here. I love saying amen around atheists because there are atheists who don't know what amen means. And then they're like, why would you say that? Why you're using Bible language and religion? It just means I agree. I'm with you. I concur. And it's a good enough word that is at least conversationally understood by enough people that I want to retake it. I don't want anybody thinking it. Why should Christianity get all the best curse words and words like amen?
Yeah, I don't get to say God damn it because I don't believe in God. I don't get to command the creator of the universe to damn a thing that I'm upset about. God damn, it's fun.
We have some more callers, including our first theist of the day. And as such, I'm getting ready to put this theist live. For my breathing comfort, I would like Austin to start, and I will just listen in my
great
theater.
You got that theist in there.
I'm gonna fail. We all know. So it's like we should have like a poll with an over how long will I actually stay quiet. But we're gonna try it. So David is a theist calling from Oklahoma, pronouncing him. Says wants to talk about Revelation and President Trump and the things that are happening. Hey, David, you're on with Austin and maybe me.
Oh, how excellent. Thank you very much. Glad to be here.
What do you got for us today, David?
Oh, wow. I'm not sure where to start. Where would you like to start? You want to talk about homosexuality being an abomination? You want to talk about women that's not supposed to speak in church? Would you like to talk about the horsemen?
Okay, let's the words on the screen under the video say is God okay with homosexuality? So let's start there. Let's start with homosexuality being, as you just said, an abomination. Tell us about that.
Well, that's exactly what it is. It's an abomination under God. That's why he destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah. There's reasons why the things happened the way they did.
Oh my God! Explain that to me. So you're in your book of fairy tales. God destroyed a city because of homosexuality, and that means that henceforth and forever, that's how we're supposed to understand humanity. Is that
it's not exactly that, but close. He destroyed a city because of not only homosexuality, but many other things that went along with that. But I'm not exactly sure how to convince you or anything. I just want to explain the truth.
You want to explain the truth? Okay, cool. Let's start from here because I got to be honest. I don't really want to get into a semantic conversation about what the details were. I mean, Matt could probably do this a lot better than I could of what the details were on why the Bible says Sodom and Gomorrah was destroyed by your psychopathic God who just loves mass murdering people all throughout the Old Testament. But let's pretend that I mean, let's not pretend. This is the truth of the situation of the conversation we're having. I don't accept your Bible as an authoritative book that is full of truth. I don't accept the truth claims made by your book. I think your book is largely contradictory, and I find it to be nothing more than a collection of myths and allegories written by people who didn't, understand the natural world around them, and they were trying to construct a story that helped them make sense of the confounding nature of existence. So given the fact that I don't accept your book as an authoritative source on, morality or who's a good person and who's a bad person. Exactly. Why would I accept that being gay is bad? Is there any way that there anything you can give me other than my book says so?
In truth, you have the free will to accept what you want. Okay? Rather, I mean, facts are facts, but yet you can always choose. That's your God-given right.
Oh, what a nice God. He allows me to choose. Oh man, that's so cool of him. So can anything happen that is not God's will? Anything in the universe? Can anything happen and save it be for his will for that to happen?
Can anything happen? You're asking stuff like if
I'm asking if anything in the world, anything in the known universe can happen without it being God's will for that thing to happen.
Well, the fact is no. He knows.
Yeah, I didn't
everything.
think so.
And
that's
and
right.
He prepared
that's right.
for everything.
So if he knows everything that's going to happen and nothing can happen that's not his will, how do I have free will, David? How do I have the free will to make my own choices if he already knows what choice I'm going to make and nothing can happen that is not his will? According to you, you just answered no, nothing can happen that is not his will.
No, that
is what you said.
Okay, you got it. Well, you're absolutely right, and I'm absolutely right. Okay, but here's the thing: you have a free will of your own to choose your reaction on every thought that you have. Okay.
All right. So
every thought that you have, you can choose to react or not. That's your free will.
No, but nothing. I'm not capable of doing anything unless it is God's will that I do that thing. You said nothing can happen in the known universe unless it is God's will, and God knows everything that ever will happen or ever has happened. So I don't have free will. I exist inside of the physical universe. I am not an independent agent acting outside of the universe.
Okay, I'll explain it like this, okay? You have one thing on this earth, and that is free will. And it is the free will to go to heaven or hell. That's the only free will you have.
That's it. And the choice is just really clear, is it? And the choice is super clear.
It's simple. And if you really don't believe me, we can go back to the Bible, and I'll explain it. And let's talk about the here and now.
I don't believe you. And David, again, David, I don't believe you. And again, I don't accept your book as an authoritative source. So we're not going to use your book as a source for why it's true or not true that I have free will given to me by your God. But let's talk about this free will thing. So according to you, like this is the circumstance that we find ourselves in. You and me, David, as people, is like, it's like I wake up in a room with no memory of how I got there. I just find myself in a room and there's, like a gaming system in front of me, and there's just a sticky note on it that says play me. And I start playing this game, and it's an RPG. It's a role-playing game. I'm walking around, and there's a pretty big map in this game, and I get to talk to people, and I have choices. There's a dialogue menu that drops down when I talk to NPCs of how I can respond to them, and what, who I get to choose who I talk to, who I don't talk to, which side quests I accept, and which side quests I don't accept. But here's the big thing is, do I get to choose to not play the game at all? Do I get to choose whether or not I exist in that room at all? And also, let's say I do everything right. Let's say I do everything right and I get to go to heaven. Do I get to choose not to do that? Like, maybe I do everything right and I go to heaven and I find out your God is like a total maniac, just like a narcissistic psychopath. Can I opt out of that? Can I be like, oh, I don't like this. Can I opt out of existence? Do I have the choice to just not play this weird, like, Jigsaw from Saw trap that your God has set up for me, where it's like, I've placed you in this room with no knowledge of how you got there or who you were before, but you got to play this weird game and solve all these riddles and all these puzzles. And if you get it right, you get to come live with me. Isn't that great? It's like, maybe I don't want to go live with the sadistic, narcissistic overlord who trapped me in the prison and said, if you solve all of my riddles, you can come live with me. Maybe I just want the freedom to not exist. Do I have the free will to do anything I want like that?
Well, of course not. You're alive. And since you're alive, you're here. And since you're here, you have to play the game. Right.
Yep, I'm forced to play the game. Exactly.
And since you have to play the game, then you must listen and understand. If you don't listen and understand, then the things that are happen and the way they play out. See, let's put it for instance, if you were raised by an atheist, then you will probably become an atheist. Okay? If you're raised by a Christian, you'll probably become a Christian.
Oh, but David, don't you know that our entire community is made up of former Christians? Don't you know that all of us are people who were raised Christian in Christian communities? I was raised,
and they lost their way.
Every single one of my, we lost our way. Oh, but I love how you make this statement. If you're raised by atheists, you'll become atheists. If you're raised by Christian, you'll become Christians. Oh, I was raised by Christian.
Could.
Oh, well, you
could become.
Yeah, I could do anything, David. David, we're getting off track here.
That's where the free will comes back into play, doesn't it?
Yeah, but David, we've already established I don't actually have free will. I'm not allowed to do anything that your God doesn't want me to do. No, I can't. I can't choose whether or not to play this weird. I'm being forced to play the game. You acknowledge that, David. I can't choose not to play the game. Whether I like it or not.
That's the thing.
I'm being forced to play the game.
That's right? Because you're alive. That's because you're alive. If you wasn't alive, of course you wouldn't be forced. But you are alive and you are here. So you have no choice but to play the game. And since you are playing the game, you better start listening. No, you have a say on if you want to go to heaven or hell.
David, you better start listening.
Yes, sir.
You better start listening to what you're saying. You're acknowledging I have no choice in this paradigm. You're saying I have free will and I also have no choice. I am forced to participate in this sick, sadistic game that your God has created for me. I am forced against my will to participate. I have no choice. No choice, you said. Because I exist, I have no choice.
Yeah.
I am forced. I'm forced to either be a stupid asshole like you so I can go to heaven, or be a kind, humanistic person and go to hell because I'm nice to gay people. Those are my choices. I either have to be a bigot and an ignorant asshole so I can go to heaven, so I can go to bigot heaven, or I need to be if I choose to just go, no, I'm not going to play the game and I'm just going to be as nice of a person as I can, I go to hell. Either way, though, I don't get to choose to just opt out of the game. I don't get to just go, hey, can I just not do this? I don't really like it. I don't really like the way you've set things up. I don't like the rules of the game. I think that it's pretty unfair, and I don't like your personal dogma that you're trying to get me to adhere to. Can I just opt out of this? And you're saying I have no choice. I have no choice to opt out of it. David, that is not what free will is.
Like I said, the only free will you have.
I'm going to mute you, David, because I don't care for you to keep repeating yourself. It's time for me to interrupt, and hopefully you'll listen very closely, because when I take you off mute, I would like an answer to my question. I don't give a shit what you think about free will. Your version of free will is bizarre. I don't believe that I have free will in any libertarian sense. And if you say, oh, you've got a free will in how you play the game, but you don't have a free will about whether you play the game, I don't care. You said that we're stuck playing the game, and so we have to listen and understand. And I would like you to tell me, what do I need to listen to and understand? And how do you know that that's the right thing for me to listen to and understand? I'm going to take you off mute now. Go ahead.
Okay. The way you listen and understand is by being silent and listening to your inner thought.
David, I didn't ask how to listen and understand. I said, what do I need to listen to and understand? And how do you know that that's the right thing to listen to and understand?
Do you know right from wrong? Is that what you're asking?
Okay, I'm going to mute you again, David. You said we need to listen and understand. And I'm asking you, what do we need to listen to and understand? What do I need to listen to and understand? What do I need to listen to and understand? That is the question. It's the only question before you right now. What do I need to listen to and understand? There will be a follow-up question. As briefly as possible, tell me what I need to listen to and understand, please.
Okay. I beg you, for one, listen to me. And
I'm going to mute you. Listen really fucking closely. Don't beg me to listen to you. I asked you a fucking question 3 or 4 fucking times. When I unmute you, answer that question. Answer only that question. Don't stray. Don't beg me to listen to you. You called in to say I need to listen to and understand something. And my first question, that we will not move beyond this. I will not let you get involved in any fucking distractions. My first fucking question that must be answered for this call to move forward at all is, what must I listen to and understand? Let's try this again.
I would like
you are
for
now,
you to
you are, oh my God, you were fucking talking while you're muted, David. You are now unmuted. Answer my question and don't answer anything else.
I would like for you to listen to me explain.
David.
That's what we're asking you to do. We are listening. Like, that's why you're here.
I'm literally fucking begging you. You said I need to listen and understand. When I unmute, I want you to say, you need to listen to and understand X, and then put in the thing in X. If you say anything else, I will hang up on you. Actually, I won't, because that would be disrespectful to Austin and the callers and the viewers. All I want you to do is say, you need to listen to and understand, boom, whatever the hell it is. I'm going to unmute you. Try again. You're unmuted.
Are you listening? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You need to listen
dumb
to me.
Motherfucker. When I tell you, I need you to say exactly. See, you're now you're wasting my time, and you're wasting the viewers' fucking time, because you don't know how to fucking have a simple conversation and answer a simple fucking question. And I'm starting to think that you're doing it on purpose. I'm going to unmute you. Nobody can hear you right now. So if you're talking, stop. I'm going to unmute you. And when I do, I would like you to say, I understand you are asking me what you need to listen to. You are unmuted.
I understand. I understand what you need to listen to.
No, you don't. You didn't fucking listen again. I didn't tell you to say, I understand what you need to listen to. I said to say, I understand that you are asking me what to listen to. You can't even follow one simple fucking question with any precision at all. Your brain is muddled goo. Once again, I would like you to tell me, I understand that you are asking me what to listen to. Try again.
I know what you need to listen to.
What is it?
David,
answer the question. What do we need to listen to?
Muted him. I already fucking muted him. David, when I tell you what the fuck to say, I'm going to unmute you in a second. I need you to say, Matt, I understand that you are asking me what you should listen to. If you say any other fucking words, I'm completely done with you. So write it down, type it if you need to. Matt, I understand that you are asking me what you should listen to. Let's try it again.
Matt, I understand what you... hell, I don't care.
Yeah, I knew
it
you
doesn't
didn't.
matter. Bye.
You're a fraud.
Hey, man,
You're a fraud,
I could
David.
tell you the truth.
You're a fraud, David. You're a fraud. I'm going to mute you. You're a fraud. You are incapable of following the basic communication. You are incapable of following a simple line of reasoning. And you are incapable of answering a simple fucking question. Even when I mute you and hand walk you like a preschooler up to the edge, saying all you need to do to continue this conversation is to say this. And you are so fucking incompetent that you cannot do that. Please don't call in to defend gods when you are this fucking broken in the head. I'm going to give you one last chance, just because maybe Austin will say something that changes this. Instead of saying exactly what I wanted you to say, which would have allowed us to figure out that you did, in fact, understand what I was asking when it's clear that you fucking don't, I'm going to unmute you, and you can say whatever you want. I would like for you to tell us what you think we need to listen to so that we can get to the why. But I no longer give a shit about what any words are that come out of your mouth. So after I unmute you, say whatever you want. Here you go.
Well, some of the things that you said and ridiculed me, I went ahead and took it. I even tried to listen to you and tell you what you wanted to hear, but instead all you wanted to do was gripe and complain about what you think I might say next. The thing is that I can tell you the future. I can tell you everything.
Oh, sick. Awesome. Tell me the future.
The future is we're going to get bombed here pretty soon. That's going to happen. I promise you that. But the thing is we're talking about the horsemen. You don't know who the horsemen are. And that's the main reason why I wanted to talk to atheists, because they don't believe the Bible, and I want to make them change their mind.
Why should we believe the Bible, David? So we started this conversation, David, with you saying homosexuality is wrong because it says so in the Old Testament. And I said, what if I don't care about your stupid book? Could you prove to me that it's wrong without that book? Or is that your only source? But it sounds like that is your only source. So why should we take that book seriously? Why should we accept that book is a credible, authoritative book that should be listened to and taken seriously?
Because, man, it was written thousands of years ago. We're talking some of them 1800, but still 2,000 years ago. And the things are coming true right now to this day. Revelations is happening,
oh my God.
and y'all don't see it.
First of all, the book is Revelation, not Revelations. If you don't even know the name of the fucking book, don't pretend that you fucking know what's in it or that it's relevant. You are making the same claim that people have been making since the dawn of fucking Christianity, that we are in the end times. We've always been in the end times. The end times, the end times, the end times. It's all coming true. It's all coming true. And you don't even know the name of the fucking book, you dumbass.
Go ahead and call me names. That's okay. I don't care.
David,
I'm telling you that it is happening.
But also, it's fucking true. You're a dumbass. You don't even know the name of the fucking book.
I told you.
David,
and look, I'll tell you. I can prove it. I can prove it.
I've been waiting for you to even define it, let alone prove it. You are a garbage thinker.
All you have to do,
can't even name the fucking
all
book.
you have to do, just do one thing. Open up the book and read one chapter. One chapter. Revelation chapter 6.
Okay.
All right. David, you're telling us that if we read one chapter from the Bible, we're going to know that the Bible is true. That, first of all, I said, how do you know that the Bible is an authoritative book? And you said, because it was written thousands of years ago. Who the fuck cares? That's not a reason to think it's true. That's a reason to think it's not true, especially with all of the rewriting and all of the revisions that have been done in those thousands of years. All of the different people who have reinterpreted and retranslated the Bible into different languages and into the parlance of different times, where they go, like, do you know, like the word, we're talking about homosexuality in the Bible. Do you know that the word homosexual didn't arrive in the Bible until the year 1946? Your book keeps getting rewritten, and your argument that it's an authoritative book is that it was written thousands of years ago. Do you know that you're talking about people who like didn't understand how weather works? Like, they would see a tornado and be like, I think that's a spirit. Like, I think that's an angry spirit, because they didn't fucking know like what an air, like how like air pressure worked in the atmosphere and how it could work into a vortex that could become like a force of nature. They just saw things like that and they thought that looked supernatural because they didn't fucking understand it. And your argument is, well, people thousands of years ago said it. Yeah, man, people, all kinds of ancient humans believed all kinds of things because they didn't have a scientific understanding of the natural world. They would look up in the sky and see lightning and be like, what the fuck is that? And then they would write stories and myths about gods in the sky who were throwing bolts of lightning at each other and things like that. But Matt, do you have Revelation 6 that
I do? Which I've read.
Yeah.
Which I've read many times and preached on and counter-preached on, but at least I know that the book is called The Revelation of John and not Revelations. Revelation 6:1. Now I watched when the Lamb opened one of the 7 seals, and I heard one of the 4 living creatures say with a voice like thunder, "Come, come." And I came. And I looked up, and behold, a white horse, and its rider had a bow, and a crown was given to him, and he came out conquering and to conquer. When he opened the 2nd seal, I heard the 2nd living creature say, "Come!" And I came again. And out came another horse, bright red. The rider was permitted to take peace from the earth, so that people should slay one another. And he was given a great sword. And when he opened the 3rd seal, I heard the 3rd living creature say, all together now, "Come!" And I looked back, and behold, a black horse, and its rider had a pair of scales in its hand. And I heard what seemed to be a voice in the midst of the 4 living creatures saying, "A quart of wheat for a denarius, and 3 quarts of barley for a denarius, and do not harm the oil and the wine." Why are they using currency that no longer has the value that it has now? But we'll set that aside. Maybe it's just a metaphor. When he opened the 4th seal, Austin, can you guess what the voice said?
I bet he commanded you like a really solid dom to come, and like a good sub, you came.
Yes, Daddy, I will come again. And I looked and beheld a pale horse, and its rider's name was Death, and Hades followed with him, which is a great game, by the way. And they were given authority over 1/4 of the earth to kill with the sword, with famine and pestilence, and by the wild beasts of the earth. By the way, if you're going to try and tie all of this to modern warfare, there aren't swords. It doesn't have to be literal. It just means conflict. Yes, I know it doesn't have to be literal. Do you understand that the book of the Revelation of John almost did not get included in the Bible because early Christians considered it the ravings of a lunatic, incoherent rambling things? The thing is that our current caller is a problematic pattern recognition machine, and he reads through Revelation and sees what he wants to see, just like millions of people have done throughout the entire history of Christianity. This is why you have the end times prophecies. I have an entire book. It's not in here. It's over in the other room, on Revelation, verse by verse. that was written back in the 70s or the 80s, and there's stuff way before then as well. So here we go. When he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of those who had been slain for the word of God and for the witness they had borne. They cried out, not come. They cried out, "O sovereign Lord, holy and true, how long before you will judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" Then they were each given a white robe, told to rest a little longer until the number of their fellows, servants and brothers should be complete, who were to be killed as they themselves had been. When he opened the sixth seal, nope, this one didn't say come. I looked and behold, there was a great earthquake, just like there was about several hours after Charlie Kirk was killed, 100 miles away or so. I just did it in a video called Charlie 1223 because other pattern recognition machines decided that Charlie's death was a sign from God, and that God sent an earthquake because the ground trembles when God is angry, and God was angry. So he made the earth tremble a few hours later, 100 miles away. But that's up on my channel. When he opened the sixth seal, I looked and beheld there was a great earthquake. The sun became black as sackcloth. The full moon became like blood, and the stars of the sky fell to the earth. That's not fucking possible. Stars are big, really big, extraordinarily big.
Written by somebody who does not know what stars are, who like exists at a time where they literally do not know what a star is.
They're just pinholes in the curtain of night. And if they were pinholes in the curtain of night, they still could not fall to earth. Why does your God not know what stars are? It just means there were lights coming down. It just means this. You don't have to take it literally, except when you do. As the fig tree sheds its winter fruit when shaken by a gale. Bible loves it, some fig trees. I got a fig tree in the backyard. The leaves are huge. No wonder they're used to, cover up genitalia. Because, when you really have big genitalia or gross genitalia, the bigger the leaf, the better. The sky vanished like a scroll that is being rolled up, and every mountain and island was removed from its place. Are you fucking kidding me? The sky was rolled up like a scroll? Yep, that's what it says. Every mountain and island. Sorry, your God doesn't understand basic geography, doesn't understand tectonic plates, doesn't understand that the only difference between the mountain and the valley is elevation, and what may be a hill or a mountain in one place doesn't count as a hill or a mountain in another case. And islands just go away. So Hawaii is just going to vanish. But wait a minute. Isn't every continent basically an island? I mean, there's so much water in there. Anyway, let's keep going because we're almost done. There's only 3 verses left. Then the kings of the earth and the great ones and the generals and the rich and the powerful and everyone, slave and free, hid themselves in the caves and among the rocks of the mountains. This is written by people who don't understand that there are other places to live and hide other than caves and rocks and mountains. For example, there's not a cave or rock crevice in a mountain anywhere near here where I could possibly go and hide. But you keep going. Calling to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide us from the face of him who is seated on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb. The great day of their wrath has come, and who can stand? Okay, here we go. David, what about that applies to today, and how do you know that it's a message from God and not a coincidence?
The first horseman came in 2008. Let's put it this way. The 3 horsemen are the last 3 U.S. presidents, and the horseman will be the next U.S. president.
How do you know that?
And how? Okay. Explain that. Explain.
Well, you read the horseman, okay? And the way you line it up is Obama was the first horseman. He was inaugurated in 2000.
How do you know that?
I'm trying to explain because he lines up.
No, you're not fucking trying to explain. His inauguration isn't relevant to whether or not he was the horseman. I'm asking you, how do you know Obama was the first horseman?
The very last thing he did was he showed his bow by lighting the White House in 2015 with a rainbow representing gay pride.
Okay, we're going to say goodbye to David because David needs some help.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
Please
you
call
got us, David.
seculartherapy.org.
You got
Please
us.
get yourself a counselor. You are delusional in a sense where it would be both cruel and possibly unethical for us to keep entertaining your nonsense that the Bible wrote about the first horseman. And because Obama put a rainbow, which isn't a bow, that you're going to use that to determine he was the first writer. Let's take a look at what the Bible says in chapter 2 about the first writer. And behold, a white horse. There's no horse, and it's not white, and even Obama's not white. And its rider, who is supposedly Obama, had a bow. Do you think the author of the Bible was talking about a weapon, a rider on a horse with a weapon, like he was when he talked about swords and other stuff? Oh, no, that doesn't fit because we don't tend to have our leaders ride horses and carry bows anymore. So David, realizing that it's going to be incredibly anachronistic to pretend that that's actually going to happen, has to go with an English fucking translation and then excuse the word bow in English with rainbow in English when the original words were not the same.
Yeah, David most likely thinks that the white horse that Obama rode in on was his vice president, Joe Biden, and that's the white horse that he's on, and then the bow is the... It's just like the way that, like, the fact that he went, oh, I got you guys, that is so wild. I don't know how, and you're right. I think it might be borderline unethical to try to talk to a person like that because he's so, but that's where I say, like, the line between all of the people who were convinced they were going to be raptured on the 23rd and the 24th and people like David, I don't see the distinction. And David probably looks at those people and thinks, oh, they're a bunch of nut bars. But I'm like, you're sitting here arguing with us that we better listen up to the word of God and that the word of God is the Bible. And when we say, how do you prove that? You have us read Revelation chapter 6, which is it's just a bunch of nonsense. It's literally just a bunch of nonsense. And then you ham-fistedly shove modern events into this like weird collection of imagery and just kind of go, well, what if Obama's the first writer and the bow isn't a bow and arrow, but it's a rainbow? And like, it's just like, but that's not what it says, dude. You're just grabbing onto whatever strands you can from reality and forcing them to sound like they corroborate your book. And again, yeah. I mean, we're just in one stupid chapter of one stupid book in this giant stupid book filled with so many stupid chapters. And that's why I kind of started the call by being like, what if we just say, I don't believe that your book is authoritative or credible at all? Could you actually explain to me why homosexuality is bad without it? And obviously, no. And that's the major problem with Christian nationalism and white nationalism in America, is that we have a whole bunch of people who want to rule over the world, and their justification for their worldview cannot be found in objective empirical reality. It's all based in this one fucking book. And it's a book it's just such a stupid book. And it's like, if you could actually give me some kind of substantive data that shows why it's bad for kids to see a cartoon where a character has two moms in it. If you could actually show me some peer-reviewed scientific studies that have been done on this, and we could actually have a real conversation where you're bringing real data to the table, then maybe we could have a conversation. But it always just goes back to, my stupid magic book says so in one chapter in one book. And we're not even sure that it says that. That's just the way that I've chosen to interpret it. Oh God.
Yeah. And since we dropped David, I'm gonna retract a part of this because I was I was setting up a potential trap. And I probably shouldn't do that, because in Revelation 6:2, the Greek word that is translated in English for bow is Greek 5115, which comes from a root of fabric, which may be where David got the notion that this is a rainbow cloth, but it is used for a bowstring. It may also be used as some sort of a garment to bring about. But since I'm not an expert in Greek, I'm going to avoid making any more pronouncements about what the original actually means. I just find it really bizarre that people who are desperately seeking messages and hidden messages and patterns will go in and pretend that this stuff was intended to be read in English for them. And maybe it was. Because if there's a God, and God knows that it's going to be, 2025 before we're able to tell who the first 3 or 4 horsemen are, and he knows that most people are going to be reading English then God made sure that the original book was irrelevant and was translated into English at the appropriate time. And it's the English one that's right. This is how you get to the King James only AV 1611 folks who only adhere to the version of the Bible that was specifically, instruction. Well, what's the right word? Basically, an adulterer didn't want to be excommunicated, so he had his guys put together a Bible that would excuse him. But, all right. This is so weird, because at many opportunities, David could have said, "Oh, I understand, Matt, that you're asking me what you should listen to. And I'm going to tell you that you should listen to the inner witness of the Holy Spirit. You should listen to what the Bible says in English, in Greek, in Hebrew, in Aramaic. I'm going to say, you should listen to me. You should listen to God." And then we could move on to the next thing and say, okay, how do you know that's the thing I should listen to? And how do I do it and do it right? Doing it and doing it and doing it. And we can't get there because David is not in touch with reality. David is reading the book, and, let me put on my Southern hat for a minute. Bless his heart. Thinks he's getting messages about the end time from God. Just like all the people who thought that the end was coming the other day, and all the people who thought that it was coming every other time, they said, oh, well, let's look at it, because here's the 4 horsemen, and the first one was Obama. Cool. So Obama was the first one. I guess I should have let David finish, because that would mean that the second one is either Obama 2 or Trump 1. And then the third one is either Trump 1 or Biden 1. And then the fourth one is either, the fourth one would be Biden. 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. But since we're going by men, we'll just go Obama, Trump, Biden, Trump. Is the second horseman and the fourth horseman, are they the same person, or is it the one that comes after Trump? Is it going to be Stephen Miller that is the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, or whoever the right is going to appoint to take over when it all falls apart? Here's the thing. I read the entire chapter. That is the entire chapter 6 of the Revelation of John. The only way people find use for the book of Revelation is by asserting that they have found hidden messages and patterns, because on its face, it does not make sense. Oh, it's intentionally like that. That's God making it so that you won't know what it means until it's too late. Well, whoop-de-doo! Thank you for letting me know that it's too late. Everything is an excuse. Everything is an excuse. Well, it doesn't look like that way to you because you're not saved, because you're not reading it right, because you're not trusting God, because you're not this, because you're not that. It's a useless fucking prediction if it can mean almost anything to almost anyone. How do you know Obama was the first of the horsemen? Oh, because he put up a gay pride flag. Well, hang on. Was he the first one to put up a gay pride flag?
Yeah, and it's like, why wouldn't the book just fucking be more specific? Why wouldn't it just say there's going to be a man named Barack Obama who is going to lead a great nation, and he's going to put a rainbow over the house in which he resides as the leader of that nation? Just fucking say it. And that way we don't have to do all of this. What does it mean? Oh, could it be interpreted to mean that way? Like, why doesn't your fucking God know how to just make predictions and prophecies that aren't specific? That aren't just it's always this thing of like, well, things are coming true, wars and rumors of wars, the gnashing of teeth, weather events like earthquakes, the shaking of the earth. Yeah, shit that just you mean shit that just happens all the time? That just happens every year? That like every month there's a major weather event somewhere in the world. There's always a war going on. Why would it kill God when he's talking to whatever mouthpiece he's talking to write the Bible? Would it kill him to just use a little bit more authorial specificity? Is that a word? Authorial? Author?
It should
anyway,
it works. Fuck it. Language is our plaything. Also, Obama didn't fly a gay pride flag. They did it with lighting. They put a pride flag up in lighting on the White House. The first pride flag that was actually flown at the White House was in 2023 under Biden. So maybe Biden is the real first horseman. And I tell you what, if the apocalypse doesn't happen very soon, that will be the shift. It'll be, it meant for the people who think it meant a pride flag. And I don't know why it means a pride flag. These people are absolutely terrified of queerness. It is, we've turned trans people, the less than 1% of the population, into the biggest boogeyman and most talked about part of the population ever. It is, hey, this person stole $50,000. Yeah, but he's not trans. Look at what the trans people are doing. Hey, this person just violated due process and rounded people up. This guy just violated international law. This guy's supporting the genocide. But, no, wait, there's trans folks out there. There's trans. And, no, this is happening. We can't pay attention to all of it because I'm so sick of hearing about trans people. But also, them gay people, I mean, they got away with it for too long. And we, in Obergefell, we got around to that. Now those homosexuals are just doing too much. And it's the end times. You guys are absolutely closeted and terrified of it.
Yeah, Donald Trump's key spiritual advisor, his personal spiritual advisor, just pled guilty to sexually assaulting children. But we got to talk about a Netflix cartoon that was canceled 3 years ago that had a trans character in it. Because, the kids might have watched a cartoon where a character was trans. Guess what? The kids go to school with queer classmates. They go to school with classmates who have queer parents. That's just the reality of the world they live in. But we can't talk about the absolute pandemic of child sexual abuse in Christian churches. We can't actually just sit down and have a conversation about that. We can't talk about the epidemic of gun violence in America and things that actually substantively endanger children in a very clearly, plainly observable way. We've got to talk about kids just being made aware that trans people exist. That one of their friends might express to them, what's that?
I have a deal. If you're out there, whether you're David or somebody else, this is unethical of me to make this deal because somebody will probably go for it and I'll just get wealthy. If you think that the rapture and the apocalypse are happening in my lifetime, I am 56 right now. If you think I'm going to be alive when the rapture, the apocalypse happens, I'm willing to make a bet with you. And that is, when we get to the date that you said is the outer limit, and it has not happened, I get all your shit. And if it happens prior to that, then I will spend the tribulation period, assuming that exists. I will sell off all my belongings and become an itinerant preacher, preaching the gospel to everyone everywhere to ensure that they know that we are post resurrection and that they are. I will study my ass off and I will lead it to the world. But can I have your shit? Give me a date.
Yeah.
And don't make it too far out, because I don't want to inherit your shit when I'm 83. And by the way, how do you know if it's going to be in my lifetime? Is God telling you what my lifetime is? Like, if he is, could you ask him how much time I got? Because I mean, I had triple bypass a few years ago and somebody said I'd be dead by now. And I'm not. I'm actually in mostly the best health I've been in 30 years. But if you think that the rapture's coming like in the next 10 years, let's put a date 10 years from now. You and I will settle up. If the rapture happens and you can show it, I will sell off everything and devote the rest of my days to preaching that you were right on behalf of whatever God you believe in. And if it doesn't happen, I get all your shit. I probably don't want your shit, but anyway.
Well, we've got a theist who says that God says that he's okay with homosexuality. And I'm interested in what this person's perspective is.
Well, that would be Sable in Kentucky. Pronounce him. Hey, Sable, welcome to the show. Thanks for calling in to tell us about God being okay with the gays.
Well, first of all, the God that I worship isn't a he, it's a she. And also, I'm a Shakta Hindu, so obviously I left all that.
Okay, I'm going to mute you for a second, Sable. I don't know if I said he, but the call screener wrote, is God okay with homosexuality? He says he is, but he's not an Abrahamic religion. My apologies if the screener got your God's pronouns wrong. So tell us about your God and how you know that your God is real, she, and okay with the gays.
Well, am I on now?
Yes,
yeah.
But you need to back off from the microphone a little bit. You're clipping.
Okay, is it still clipping?
That's
a little better. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, I'm a Hindu. I'm especially a part of Shaktism, which worships the mother goddess as a supreme being. And yeah, our religion is very much pro-gay, pro-trans. Just to give you an example, we actually have not just one, but two goddesses associated with transsexuals. One is Mohini, who's the female avatar of Vishnu, and another is Bahucharamata. Both are patrons of the Hydra, who are, like the trans people of like India and many of the places that practice Hinduism. And also when it comes to homosexuality, we actually have two gods. Well, I think you should know in a lot of the ways our religion functions, polyamory is kind of the norm with the gods and in heaven. But we have two gods, Mitra and Varuna. Now, Varuna has a wife, but he's also male lovers with Mitra.
You're clipping the microphone again. You just need to back off a little bit. How do you know, like when you talk about your gods, are they real thinking individual consciousnesses, or are they just metaphors?
Well, I believe they're real, of course. I mean, generally, if you worship a God, you believe they're real.
What is the evidence that they're real?
Well, again, I don't know if I would say I have any, material evidence other than things.
And I don't care.
Other than things.
Then I don't care. Okay. Why would you believe something without evidence?
Well, because I generally agree with what the religion states and overall the philosophy and things like that.
If I say if I say to you, Sable, I think we should strive to be kind to each other, to say I don't know when we don't know, and to follow the best evidence towards a better understanding of reality. Is there anything in that you disagree with?
Not in spirit, but I don't
Cool.
see believing in a religion necessarily as a bad issue as long as the
No,
religion
no,
teaches
no, no,
good
no.
things.
I asked you, see, don't add to what I asked you if you agreed with me. You said you're part of the religion without evidence because you agree with its message. And I just gave you my message and you agreed with it. So are you willing to just join my religion?
Well, no, I would say not. I guess I don't agree with
Why
it
not?
in full because
Why not? What's wrong with it?
well because I well because I don't really think that again believing in a religion is a problem if the religion is actually teaches good things. And if we're talking about evidence, then
I'm sorry.
again,
I'm
I don't know if it
sorry.
would.
I'm sorry. Um, I asked what was wrong with my religion. You're rejecting my religion.
No, I'm not saying that I reject your religion. I mean, you have a
You
right
did.
to believe in
Oh,
that, and I
you say
absolutely
here. Let me
support.
make this really clear. Let me make this really clear, Sable. You said that you accept um, Shadiism because you agree with its message, and then I gave you a message, and you said you agree with that message, but you're not going to be a part of my religion. Why?
Well, I mean, again, there are many religions out there that have messages I agree with, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to be a part of all of them. Again, I
Why
Why
stick
not
to
not?
the
though?
one
Why?
that
But
works
Why
why?
best
not?
for me.
Why not?
But why?
Well, it's a matter of personal taste. I mean, I don't have to eat all food, even though that I
Sable,
might.
Sable, Sable. Here, let me. I'm trying really hard. We'd like to know why you believe, and we'd also like to know why we should believe. And you've said that you don't have evidence, but you like the message. And so, our point of asking you why you won't join my religion is if it's just about liking the message, why wouldn't you join every religion where you liked the message? What's the reason you wouldn't join them all?
Well, it's not that I'm necessarily against those religions. I fully support them and their right
I
to
don't know
practice
why
and
you
believe.
can't
And
answer the question. This is so frustrating. I keep asking you the same question and you keep
well,
deflecting with garbage.
it's it's a
You
matter
say,
of
well, it's
personal
no, no,
taste.
no. I asked,
What does that mean?
why wouldn't you count yourself as a member of every religion you agree with? And you said, well, it's not like I'm opposed to them. I know. Why don't you count yourself a member of every religion with which you agree?
Because again, like I was going to say before, it's a matter of personal taste. I'm not
What
against
does that what
eating
does that
all
mean
types
though?
of.
What is that?
God.
What is it's a matter of personal taste mean? You keep saying that, and I'm like, you believe in you've confirmed to us that you believe in the literal existence of the God figures that are a part of the religion that you said you only believe in
Mhm.
because you agree with it. What about personal taste comes into believing in the literal existence of certain supernatural figures but not other ones? What is it just like you
Well, no,
vibe
no,
with
no.
those
If that's what we're
supernatural?
saying, then I do believe in gods of other religions. If that's what we're saying, then I do believe in gods of other religions because I
Wait,
believe that
what?
our gods are made manifest. Well, let me explain now. Well, I do believe that our gods are made manifest all over the world in different forms, persons, and names.
Prove it.
You believe you believe the gods that you believe in are made manifest in so you're okay, so it's basically one of those deals where other religions believe in the same god that you believe in, they just call it a different name and they don't realize that they're believing in the same gods as you, and they just sort of so it's one of, okay, so it's one of these like the religion of the ego where it's like, well, I actually am talking to the real God and I'm actually praying to the real God. That's the God that everyone's
No,
praying to. They
no, it's
just don't
nothing
know it.
like that. It's nothing like that. No, many pagan religions held the belief that the gods they were worshipped by the whole world under different names and forms, and it's more of a trivial thing to worry about. Oh, well, which name is the right name? It's.
Okay, so what
I'm
is the
sorry.
evidence that
It's
these
not
gods
just about the
exist?
name. This is bizarre. There are specific teaching. The gods of different religions cannot all exist and all be real because they contradict each other.
Oh no, I didn't say that all the gods that all the gods were the same. I guess there could be identified because I definitely believe that some gods that are worshipped are demonic, like the Abrahamic one.
Okay. Do you care if your beliefs are true?
I mean, I would hope that they are true, and I
Then
would,
that's a no. That's a no. That's a no. You don't care if your beliefs are true. You just hope they are. Congratulations on demonstrating that you do not care about truth and do not have any justification for what you're saying is true. Why would you believe something when you acknowledge that you do not have good reason and you don't care whether or not you have good reason?
Oh, I would say that I have good reason. It's just, I definitely would say that I agree with much.
What the fuck is your reason then? I asked that a while ago. What is the reason? Jesus fucking Christ.
Well, again, I would say that I agree with much of the theology, the metaphysics, as well as the overall philosophy behind the religion. And if we're talking about evidence, again, I have as much evidence as any religion, apparitions, dreams,
which is none, which is
certain
fucking
miracles
none.
and things.
You don't get to make excuses and pretend like you give a shit about whether it's real by saying, I'm lacking just as much evidence as all the other religions. I'm just as stupid and irrational as every other religious believer. Congrats.
You said miracles. What miracles have you witnessed that, help you believe?
Are you speaking to me personally?
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen any personally, but I've heard about them.
How do you know they're real? How do you know the miracles you've heard about are real? Oh, is Sable going to pout and not talk to me because I said he was stupid and irrational, and now he's only going to talk to you? Is that what's happening, Sable?
Sable, you said personal taste. Is that really what it comes down to for you? You believe in the literal existence of supernatural beings that govern over the cosmos and govern over indeed the world and the morality of mankind, and the way that you decide which organized system of religion you're going to worship these deities under is just a matter of like vibes, just like I just sort of vibe with this one more than the others. It comes down to that for you?
Okay, bye, Sable.
All right, Sable.
Sable doesn't care about what's true. He just wants to know that there's a God that loves him for being gay. Cool.
Loves
somebody for being gay. I don't have any idea whether Sable's gay or not, but I'd bet money.
Yeah.
Because people who don't care about whether it's real but want to believe in a God that's okay with someone being gay, probably gay. Maybe not. Maybe they have gay friends. Maybe they have gay family members, and maybe they're just a good person. But it'd be really nice if you cared about what's true. Because if you just said, "Hey, I buy into this version of Hinduism because I like the message," when I look into Shaktism, there are things about it that appeal to me. Cool. Do you care if those things are true? That's the most important question. Because if you just go, and this is kind of what Austin was getting to, if you just go with vibes, great. Then you are on equal footing with everybody else who's just going with vibes. And that means you are all similarly, if not equally, demonstrably irrational because you are not taking any steps to verify that what you believe is true because you care more about whether or not it's comforting than whether it's true. And that is absolutely your privilege. But I don't give a shit if you find something comforting. I care whether it's true. There are people who find it comforting to think that homosexuals are going to burn in a lake of fire, that God's going to give them what they've got coming for all that sodomy. I don't care how much that comforts them. They're still an ignorant fucking bigot. And if we're going to live in a world where there are ignorant fucking bigots that think like that, and then there are good people like Sable who would like for homosexuality to be just fine, that's nice, except that they're both asserting that something is true while neither can demonstrate it and don't seem to care about how they could show it's true. This is why these woo versions of traditional religions are garbage. Just like healing crystals and chakras and Reiki and name your fucking pseudoscience, it's all about hey, I felt really good. I went and saw, an acupuncturist and boom, I felt better. Cool. How do you prove it's not the placebo effect? How did you show that it did anything at all? Well, it's all about your chi and the lines. Yes, but where's the demonstration that chi is real? Where's the demonstration that any of these lines are real? It doesn't happen. Oh, but if you go for the metaphorical substrate, oh wait, no, that's Jordan Peterson. Maybe I should channel Deepak Chopra, or maybe I should channel nobody, because the reality is the only way I'm ever going to be convinced of something is if there's good reason to believe it's true. If you tell me it feels really good, I believe you. There's lots of things that feel really good, but however, if something feels good to you, does that mean it is good? Because for some people, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, those things feel good to them because their mind is so broken that they cannot accept that things that they're terrified of and things that they hate might be viewed as acceptable by others.
I'll tell you, Matt, I've had some really good God-approved heterosexual sex with members of the opposite sex who, or the opposite gender, who, it felt really good, but that person was bad for me. Sometimes stuff feels good and it's bad.
Were you married? Because you were having sinful sex outside of wedlock, so that's the problem.
That was the problem. Yeah.
I can put my Jesus hat back on. Hey, let's move on.
Somebody in the chat said heroin feels amazing.
Yeah, heroin feels really good, but I don't recommend it. Tyler's calling from Georgia. Tyler's a theist who also says that God is okay with homosexuality and that gay people will go to heaven, wants to build a case for God's nature. There's a lot to unpack in one little sentence there, but hey, Tyler, how are you? And which God are we talking about?
Hey, guys. Pleasure to be on the show, by the way.
I can't hear you.
And
your volume is really low.
Is it?
Yeah, that's definitely a caller side issue. He's hitting our audio mixer. There we go.
That's a little better.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay,
much better.
Now we hear you. What's up?
Okay. All right. Yeah. So the God that I'm talking about would be, I would say, the traditional Christian. Well, not traditional, I guess. I happen to be a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And
so you're Mormon. I will shut up now.
One of my boys.
Yeah.
All right,
Hey,
Tyler. I'm from
so the Mormon
Sandy,
God's
Utah.
okay with gay people, but really didn't like black people for a long time. But go ahead. I will stay out of this one.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. No,
Tyler,
I totally understand that. Yeah.
Tyler, I am stoked to hear about how our Mormon God is cool with gay people and how they're going to get into heaven. I'm stoked to hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
Witness to me and bear your testimony, brother.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm sure if you guys are familiar with Mormon theology and things of that nature, you've heard about the three kingdoms in heaven, so to speak.
Yep.
There's the celestial, terrestrial, and telestial.
Correct.
One of the cool things I really like about that kind of theology is essentially each kingdom of heaven is in heaven. Okay, it constitutes as heaven, and we believe that most people are, with like a small exception of few, most people like on the planet are going to go to heaven. Whether that's the one of the three kingdoms.
Hold on, really, just for the sake of brevity, Tyler. Sorry to interrupt, but just for the sake of brevity, this is. It sounds like this is going to lead to you saying that queer people are going to be granted access into one of the lower tiers of heaven, but they will be in heaven nonetheless. Is that is that the place that you're leading us to?
Sure. I mean, I have a little disagreement with like the framing it in a way of like a lower tier, so to speak.
Why do you have a disagreement with
it? So it's the way I like to think, or the way I believe the tiers of the kingdom are essentially, are going to be more of God loves us, okay? and he wants us to, like, heaven is supposed to be this place of like unimaginable glory and joy and all that kind of stuff. So what he's going to do is here on earth, we are essentially trying to seek out truth, and we are living to things that we believe are true and the things we're comfortable with and all that kind of stuff. And God, there's a law for each of the kingdoms. So there's a celestial law, there's a terrestrial law, and there's a celestial law. Now, if I'm someone who has essentially is like, hey, you know, being gay is something that, you know, I'm comfortable with and, you know, love and think is good and all this other kind of stuff, right? Then God is going to want me to go to a kingdom in heaven where that law is, that you can live to that law, if that makes sense. Whereas he wouldn't want me to go to a kingdom where, like, the celestial law, right?
He doesn't want me to go to the celestial with all the bigots. He doesn't want me to go to bigot heaven.
Call them, well, I wouldn't necessarily call it bigot heaven.
I would.
You know, we're taught.
I would.
Okay. I mean,
so there's you're saying that there's one place that everyone can go where people are cool with gay people, where people are nice to gay people and don't think that there's anything wrong with being gay. But there's another place where people understand that it's bad to be gay, and God wouldn't want the gay people to go where all the people think it's bad to be gay. He wouldn't want them to go to bigot heaven, right?
Well, I wouldn't say we believe it's bad to be gay. Is what?
Well, then why the separation? Why the tiers? Why is there a tier for people who believe that it's a sin to be gay and a tier for people who believe that it's not a sin to be gay? Why the separation?
I believe it's simply, I guess, let's say let's zoom out just real quick, where we have the goal in general is our Father in heaven, God, is essentially wanting us. He wants to have us become like him. There's, you know, scriptures in Matthew where it's like, be perfect even as your Father in heaven is perfect, right? And so our goal is to become like God, to have a full understanding of all things, to be able to participate in creation.
We're gonna be gods, and we're gonna create. We're gonna have our own planets. Yep.
Right. And so when we're thinking of that thing, like we'll say specifically with homosexuality, right? Homosexuality, kind of, again, I'm not saying it's bad, okay? I'm saying that it does go against the laws of creation, as in you would need to have a man and a woman in order to create new life, if that makes sense. So it's more of, if that's the kind of law you want to live by, right?
And that still works that still works for gods. Like, gods aren't able to create life without having sex. Gods aren't able to create life without putting a sperm in an egg and having like a romantic relationship with, because, you know, like, queer people on Earth have figured out how to have kids, you know, through things like fertilization and like IVF and things like that, like where like they can get a surrogate
person.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
I so
why would queer people in the afterlife not be able to do that, if indeed that is how gods need to create things? First of all, I don't believe that your doctrine does actually support the. Sorry, Matt, I'll get let you jump in here really quick. But I don't believe that your God actually does support the idea that, and your doctrine does support the idea that that creation by gods requires sex. I don't think that God had sex with all of the animals on Earth to produce the first animals. I think he just materialized them. I think that God materializes all kinds of organic matter in the mythology of your origin story. And it doesn't, you know, creation from a God's perspective does not require biological reproduction through the act of sex. But second of all, even on Earth in this temporal existence, queer people have figured out a way to reproduce and have sex. We have science that can help them out with that. Why would they not be able to do that in the afterlife? Why does that go counter to the...
I would suggest the science you're talking about is another woman, right? A surrogate.
Yeah, sure, that you need an egg and a sperm. An egg and an egg to be fertilized.
Right.
Yeah,
and
but why
I'm
would
saying that that's following the laws of like the celestial kingdom, so to speak, right?
Right, but what I'm saying is, why is that a law? That because a God doesn't need to have sex in order to create something. A God can create a galaxy just with the snap of a finger. A God has infinite power, and why would a God need to have sex to create something? Does a God need to have sex with a cat to create a cat? Does a God need to have sex with a tree to create a tree?
No.
Right. So why is creation dictated by you must be in a heterosexual romantic relationship with someone who has the inverse sexual organs of you in order to have the powers of a god and have the powers of godlike creation? Why would that be the case?
So I haven't thought necessarily extensively on this, but just just briefly, my underdeveloped thoughts here would be, I can't remember which section in the Doctrine and Covenants it mentions this. I think it might be 93. That's a guess, but it says that a soul is body and spirit, and in terms of the spirit, we are like spirits, like human, like basically the children of God can only be created through, I guess we could suggest, sex, so to speak, right? Because and because we are the same material as God, just children.
How did Mary get pregnant with Jesus?
I believe it says something about the spirit
doing the hippity dippity with her, getting down and getting nasty.
I wouldn't necessarily suggest that. Just as a surrogate, like you kind of like insert it there into the egg or whatever. Like I'm sure it's along those same lines.
What? That's against the law of creation, Tyler. You can't just go in there and insert a sperm into an egg. You gotta get in there and do the work. You gotta pump and dump, dude. Okay. That's what you just said, right? That like there was a gospel from the early 90s that said that in order for human beings to be created, they gotta get down to it, and they better not do it outside of wedlock. And I'm pretty sure Mary wasn't married to the Holy Spirit when the Holy Spirit came in and dumped a load in her. But I also don't think that that's how it's described in the Bible, right? You just said that there was an egg that was placed inside of, or a sperm that was placed inside of her egg. And I'm just thinking like we're not lining up here. You know what I'm saying? Like it should be okay for people to get pregnant all different manner of ways if that's how the mother of the Lord was impregnated, right?
I mean, I'd say that I think that I don't know. I would say, like, again, this isn't something I've thought too extensively about, right? So I'm not necessarily saying that.
It's okay.
My thoughts.
That's
my
what the
thoughts
show's
on
here
it are
for.
like, this is exactly how it is or anything. Although you do seem to, your tone and your words suggest that, this is a matter of fact or something, and these are my firm beliefs or something. You asked me a question very on the fringe of what we're, theologically speaking about. We're talking about gay people and then being able to go to like heaven and things like that.
Right. And the reason why you said that they're not allowed, right, Tyler, hold on, Tyler, hold on, Tyler, hold on.
You gotta calm down there,
Tyler, hold on. No, well, you gotta calm down and stop talking over me, buddy. Yeah, Tyler, the reason why I'm asking you the questions I'm asking you is because I used to be a member of your church, and I'm very, very well versed in the doctrines of your church and in the tenets of your church. I was a true believing member. I was raised in it my entire life. And so I'm asking you questions that I don't think you've asked. So I was asking you, why are gay people not allowed to be in the highest tier? And you said, well, we shouldn't think about it in terms of ranking, although it is in terms of ranking. You're being intellectually dishonest there. There is the highest one. The one, in order for us to become like God, as you said, hold on, Tyler, I'm not done. We need to be in the celestial tier. Tyler, hold on. We need to be in the celestial tier in order to become like God, which means that is the highest one that we can achieve. But we can't be there unless we are willing to abide by the rules of creation, which means a man and a woman need to make a baby. I pointed out to you that queer people here on Earth are able to make babies all the time without being in committed, monogamous, heterosexual relationships with each other, and pointed out, that the literal creation of, the impregnation of Mary, the mother of Jesus, was not done by a physical person having sex with her after they were married and well, Tyler, I'm just asking you questions because if you're still there,
pissed.
I'm sorry that we didn't get.
Pissed. There were 2 fucking callers left, and we were discussing whether or not we were going to get to either of those callers, because I have questions for Tyler, and Tyler ran away. See, my questions are, since Tyler's view is that gay couples pairing up is in opposition to the law of nature about procreation, a sterile heterosexual couple also fits that problem as well. Is the church have opposition to 2 sterile people of opposite genders getting married and being in a relationship? Do they have a problem with that? Because I've never heard about that. Now, there is stuff in the Bible about, if you have wounded stones, don't let them enter into the temple. So maybe they took that and ran with it. But I'm pretty sure the church, while they encourage people to have kids, isn't going to oust someone for merely being sterile. And by the way, I'm talking medically sterile. Like, I don't know, you had your balls cut off, you've had your ovaries removed due to ovarian cancer, whatever. Are those marriages null and void? Why is one pairing that can't produce life condemned while the other one isn't? Does the Mormon Church discipline homosexuals? Because I seem to recall hearing about church discipline related to homosexual activities. Do they live in a different status under the church than heterosexual couples? I think the answer is yes. And why not do they get to go to the best tier of heaven? Because, Tyler, I don't believe any of this is true, and you haven't spent one second trying to argue that it's true. You're just telling me what you believe and how your beliefs might be slightly different from the church. But why are there different tiers of heaven in the first place? What is this? And by the way, isn't Mormon heaven you get your own universe? Why would I care if I'm in a different universe than the bigots that didn't like me in the first fucking place? Ooh, it's not as fancy of a universe. Well, okay, I'll take it. But then you talk about this being about the soul. You haven't proved that there is a soul. Nobody's proved that there is a soul. And of all the things in religion that I am to varying degrees confident are false, the soul is the one that is most obviously, almost certainly false. Every single thing ever attributed to a soul is either an identifiable function of a brain or is not identifiably real at all. And so the last question that I had for Tyler, please think about this, Tyler. Since you think that God magically placed an egg in Mary, if God had magically placed that egg in Joseph, could Joseph have delivered Jesus? I mean, if that's what God wanted, I think the answer would be yes.
I think so. But I also think, and I have to speak for Tyler here because he ran away, but I think Tyler admittedly said, well, these are a lot of things that I actually haven't spent much time thinking about. He said that on the call. And the thing is, Tyler, if you're still there, I know that. I know you haven't spent a lot of time thinking about these things. What you have spent time thinking about is, how can I rationalize how cruel my church has been throughout its history to my queer friends? You're probably a person who has queer friends, maybe even some queer family members, and you're trying to figure out, how can I rationalize the cruelty that my church has shown to my queer friends throughout my lifetime? How can I make that work with my belief system? And so you're coming up with Tyler's version of Mormon post-life theology, which says that there are different tiers, and there's a tier that's reserved just for gay people where it says, hey, if you go to this tier, it's just as good, it's a great place to go, and no one will be mean to you. Everyone will be cool with the fact that you're gay. And you don't like to think about the tiers as being ranked because that seems bad. That seems like God is saying that the gay tier is lower than the heterosexual tier. But then when I get you to go down the road of it, you have to admit, well, in order to become a god and in order to have your own universe, as Matt said, you have to be in that highest tier. You have to be in the celestial tier, which means they are ranked in order of significance and in preferential order from God. But these are things that Tyler admittedly said he hadn't spent much time thinking about. And I know that. That's what this show is for, Tyler. That's why I was asking the questions that I was asking. And I hope you'll continue thinking about this, and not just in a way where you're trying to justify your church's bigotry toward your queer friends and potentially queer family members, and instead actually thinking about, does any of this make sense to begin with? Does any of this actually make any fucking sense? Does it actually make sense that in order to get into the highest tier, in order to become a god, I need to be heterosexual so that I can pump and dump and make spirit babies with spirit wives? Does that make sense? And like, if you are the creator of all life in your personal universe, are you fucking to create all of that life? And the answer is no, you're not. But, that's why I was asking you those questions, Tyler. And I know that those questions are really, really scary for a Mormon like you, but I hope you get there, bud.
Yeah. Tyler is a better person than the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints would permissibly create or instruct. But that's not going to continue to be the case, Tyler, if you keep trying to defend a homophobic, transphobic hate group that actively works to oppose secular laws, the laws of this nation and others that support homosexuality. As long as the Mormon Church continues to oppose those, if the Mormon Church wants to be full of bigots and say that they get into the top tier of heaven, cool. I wish it weren't so, but I at least appreciate the freedom afforded you, a freedom of religion, to be as hateful and bigoted and ignorant as you want, provided you are not actively hurting other people. But the Mormon Church crosses that line, as do many Christian churches, by standing up in opposition to secular support for legalizing and advocating for the normality and permissibility of homosexuality and transness. And like the Catholic Church opposes in condoms in AIDS-ravaged Africa because of their position on homosexuality. The Mormon Church does similar things. And so what you're being handed at the temple is a shit sandwich that someone has tried to cover in chocolate syrup. And all you're doing is calling in to say how much you like the chocolate syrup, and you don't think the secret ingredient is actually shit, when it is. All right, we got one final call, and we only got a couple minutes to do it, so let's knock this out. Francis is calling from Australia. Pronouns are he, him. Hey, Francis, welcome to the show.
Hi, Matt. Hi, Austin. How's it going?
Hello.
Pretty well.
Yeah. I don't know if you all can hear me very clearly.
Can hear you great.
Yeah, but it's 5
make it out.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So, should I ask the question? First time caller here anyway. But long time listener.
Go ahead. Bring us home,
I love
Francis. You're going to be
I went to Perth. I went to Perth, and when I got there, they said, welcome to the most boring city ever, and I had a great time.
Yeah, it can be very, very boring. Well, you just got to create the happiness yourself.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking if there's a way we can use the Bible to disprove the existence of the Bible God.
No.
I am aware it's very difficult to disprove the existence of gods. That depending on the depending on the type of the claim of the God. But based on the kind of claims that were made in the Bible, is it possible to use those claims to disprove the existence of that God?
No.
No. Okay. Why is that?
No. I mean, do you think you have an example? Because I don't know how you could do it without. Even if you said, "Ooh, the Bible says God made the sky pink and the sky is blue," therefore you didn't just use the Bible; you'd used facts from reality to show an inconsistency. I don't know how you would do it using the Bible to show that the God doesn't exist. The most you could ever do is show that the Bible might be wrong about God, or some feature or aspect about God.
Okay.
But if you have a thought on how you could do it, go ahead.
I was thinking maybe like with some of the contradictions that were in the Bible and some of the errors, and with the thousands of denominations we have contradicting themselves with interpretations of the Bible.
Yeah, that's called.
Is that not possible?
That's called the problem of disparate revelation, but it's not the Bible. It's the fact that. So yes, the Bible isn't a clear message that conveys the same information to every reader, but that doesn't prove that none of them got it right.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I wish it were true.
So I guess we're all going to be stuck here trying to. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Go on.
No. The issue here is that the Bible God, along with many other gods, seems to be, at least currently, if not in principle, unfalsifiable. There's no way to disprove the claim if it's so nebulous. It's like trying to nail Jell-O to a wall. You can do it, but you're not going to get all the Jell-O up there. So you're only going to get little pieces of it at most. And it's not really nailed. It's more like surface tension. Anyway, I've taken the analogy and beat the crap out of it. But if in order for something to be testable and falsifiable, it needs to be somewhat clearly defined so that you can show that there is a clear contradiction between two facets of itself or some facet of this thing and reality. And if those things are in contradiction, like reality and this God, then reality is going to win out until you can show that reality is actually wrong. And you could do that because now you're saying that the fact we thought we knew about reality is wrong. That happens all the time, by the way, in that science is self-correcting. But I don't know how to do it with, like, a lot of people think there's contradictions in the Bible. And, there are, but I mean, there's not as many and they're not as significant as people tend to think. But let's say we found a contradiction. Let's say, and here's one, the order of events in Genesis 1 and Genesis 2 are contradictory. And the order of events in those both contradict what we know scientifically to be the accurate presentation of the order of events. Does that prove that God doesn't exist?
No.
At most, it proves that the Bible got something wrong. But how do you know which one it got wrong?
Yeah. What prompted this question in my head was, I was thinking, how back in the days people used to worship thunders and lightning, and now we know exactly what caused thunders and lightning, and I don't think we have any followers of that religion anymore. So that's what I was thinking. If we start based on all the claims of each religion, we use their claims to disprove their god or goddess, that might work. But now that you've explained it, I guess it's time to go back to the drawing board and think of a different ways of disproving the biblical God.
Yeah, I think the best you can do. Wow. I just got a notification, take the trash out, and it's not even trash day. I think the best that you can do is say the source that you're using to learn about God is demonstrably unreliable. And so you need to come up as a believer with a method of showing which portions of it should be considered reliable and why. And until that actually happens, you're just kind of stuck. Not you, but the believers.
Yeah.
Anyway, cheers, Francis. We've got to run, but I thank you so much for the call and the thoughts. Austin, so good to see you and get to do a show.
Yeah, this was a lot of
fun. Coming up next right here, you're going to get auto flipped over to an episode of Calling It Now in like a minute and some change. So very quickly, huge thank you to our moderators, to the call screeners, to the people who called in, including the ones that were incredibly frustrating or ran away. Thank you to Arden for producing, Austin for being here with me, all of you for watching. Don't forget, click like, click subscribe. It does genuinely really help out. Once a video goes up, go make a comment on the video to say, hey, I was there for this. I remember when that happened. All of that stuff actually helps us. You can go to linemerch.com to find products and stuff to support us. You can become a supporter at patreon.com/calltheline. There are shows Sunday twice, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then sometimes on Friday and Saturday. Up next is Calling It Now. Take care of yourself. And,
bye, everybody.
People around you.
Yeah. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. Or I'm cutting you off. Jeez, I need to let you just finish it. Sorry.
Oh, I was done. We're just vamping. We're watching the producers scroll up. Oh, it's 5 o'clock. Goodbye.
Okay.